relaxing.
see that you guys did
Tonight is just about relaxing and having a good time. And even cooler that we already sort of set a vibe out there and we're carrying the vibe into here. And let's just keep it. Let's forget that these cameras exist. Let's forget these microphones. Let's just be present with each other and enjoy the experience we're about to have. But I'll count 1, 2, 3. Just take a deep breath all together, let it go, and then we'll get the episode started.
Sounds good.
All right. So 1, 2, 3.
Wouldn't think that changes a lot, but it really does. It's like instant calming.
Gentlemen, welcome to the Unscripted Room. Welcome to the episode tonight, which is discipline around technology. And our job is to explore where technology is adding amazing benefit to our life and also start to examine the cost of that and figure out sort of where the juice is worth the squeeze in the way that we're approaching technology moving forward. From the conversation that we already had before we came into this room, I'm very excited for the chemistry that we have to be able to have this conversation. And if you guys are ready, what we'll do is we'll start with the first question, which goes over to you.
I'm special. As per always, love the envelopes.
All right. I'm glad we're continuing to please in that way. I should also say thank you for being the second time guest member that we have. That was a bad explanation for that, but we get the idea.
Well, I appreciate being here. It's cool vibes, and I love the topics, so
Great.
This is awesome. The question is, what role has technology played in shaping your life?
Broad.
That's a very
Very broad.
okay. I would say for me, it was like a wild experience from, I'm sure as everyone here has experienced, the dial-up PCs in the schools and everything around there, where it was like super slow and then it like progressively gets better. And now like it's wild to me because it's super convenient to have a computer in your hand.
Mhm.
You can use it for directions. You can use it for a calculator. Like it's so many tools in one. And I think that is like the biggest portion of technology that I would say is worth bringing attention to.
Do you guys remember a time when technology wasn't a part of your lives?
No, not at all, actually.
What's your first technology memory?
My dad had one of the dial-up computers,
Uh-huh.
and he used to love to play Diablo.
Okay.
And he let my brother play. Like one of my first memories ever, just sitting behind my brother watching him play Diablo.
So I think, for whatever this episode was going to be, I think the most fun that we're going to have tonight is concentrating quite a bit on games, because it's one of the things about technology
Yeah.
that I think we really need to examine. I don't know, it potentially has benefited a ton of people's lives to have these games where they've been able to engage their mind into something so deeply that they, like you said tonight, that you were excited to be here, but it was in lieu of you being able to invest yourself in playing a game that you love.
Yeah.
But there's not that many things you can do in life where you love that much. And these games have really figured out how to create an immersive experience that is difficult to match, right?
Yeah. I think where it goes is it does help give one, like it gives you something for reward. So whatever you're working toward, you're always getting something in return for. So
Yeah.
that's rewarding in itself, and it instantly gives you dopamine. So I think that's a cool aspect of it. But at the same time, I mean, we're talking about positives and negatives, right? So I feel like at the same time, even as great as it is, some people overdo it. And like how I was able to be like, all right, it's just a video game. Let's go talk with the boys and have a good, fun conversation. A lot of people can't do that and won't do that.
Mhm.
Because now they're trapped in this world, and that is the only thing that appeases them because it's constantly a rewarding factor. So I feel like as great as video games is, it could be an addiction to certain people who don't really put themselves out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Can I just say one thing that we've discovered since we started doing this podcast? Well, maybe the two things are related. Like one thing that seems to be universally coming out every single time is that humans get really good at anything that they practice. So video games are very interesting because you can practice them endlessly. You don't ever have to stop. But my understanding of a lot of these video games is that they're also incredibly hard. that they're
Yeah.
not, they're not something that, I was telling you before, I really don't have a lot of video game experience. I've got the basics, but I have found a couple times, like my son was trying to get me to play Red Dead Redemption, I think it's called.
That's a
Great
fun game.
Yeah, that's
Both
how.
of them.
Yeah, and I really appreciated the passion that he was bringing into explaining it to me, and then he showed me the visual experience, and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible that they're doing this right now. But then because I have kids that are a part of a divorce, and so they're with me one week and with their mom one week. So I was like, all right, when you guys are at your mom's house, I'm going to try to learn how to play this video game. I sat down and I got like 25 minutes to it, and I was like, I'm such a moron. I have no idea how to navigate this. I have no idea how to get any of this done. And it just like that was as far as I could get before my mind was just like, no, this isn't for me. But it made me appreciate how difficult it is. You've got a lot of different things going on. Your hand-eye coordination has to be pretty amazing, and you're doing nonstop problem solving the whole time. You're always trying to figure it out. For you two, what's the hardest game you've ever played? And what made it so hard?
I believe we touched up on it on my first time here. I
Okay.
would say the Dark Souls series.
That's crazy. I was gonna say Elden Ring.
That's in the Dark Souls
I
series.
know.
With technicality.
I was gonna specifically say that.
Okay, so
that
for
game is
somebody who's never played
ridiculous.
those games, myself, but anybody maybe who's listening, what about like give us an overview of what the game is and then break down why it's hard.
You want me to do it?
Yeah, you can
Okay.
explain it better.
So overall, there's no difficulty setting. That's what makes these games so unique, is because typically games could be like easy, normal, hard, very hard, whatever the case is. This game is just standard.
Straight up, it is what it is.
Exactly. So you go in, you build a character, whether it has specs already built in or no specs. You then would have to fight open world enemies at
Does
a base
everybody
difficulty.
start at the same character, or is there ways that you can get an advantage in the character that you choose?
Technically, there's classes, so each class has an advantage per se. My personal favorite is to torture myself and go with like the lowest standing one as more of a challenge. Why do I do that? I don't know. But we go into it with like bare nothing. You go in, you have to kill enemies and work your way through this huge, massive open world. And when I mean massive, I mean like you scroll through the map. It's so grandiose. But what's cool about it is, again, there's no difficulty. So you go in, you can die like 15 times to one person, and it could be a base enemy. A base enemy can kill you as much, if not more, than a boss monster. So it's really depending on your playstyle. It's depending on your environment. It's depending on
Can I ask a couple questions just to clarify?
yeah. By all
So
means.
when you're going in there and you're saying you can get killed by a base
Enemy.
enemy, is that somebody else who's playing the game at the same time, or is that
No.
that's something that was
NPC.
created by? Okay, yeah, thanks.
Yeah. So this game does technically have like online. It's called Invaders. You go into another person's world and make their life a living hell.
Okay,
You go in and your whole purpose is to kill them.
okay,
It's
Mhm.
so rude. People love doing it. There's whole communities for it.
okay.
But typically you go through and you fight NPCs, essentially these non-player characters. So with that being said, you go in and you die to the same skeletal archer because maybe he has a high advantage, or you don't have enough armor, or you don't dodge at the right time. So then you have to pick up all these little subtle actions that they do to get their habits down packed. That goes for bosses too. That's what
Mhm.
makes the game so hard, is that if you're not good at like one, switching your strategy, or two, realizing what's happening around you to pay attention to what's happening, it's very, very difficult. What makes it even harder is that you don't get better equipment most of the time. What you have to do is kill one enemy and hope that it drops an item. So you have to sit there for hours sometimes farming. You can kill people who transcend and like lead the story in a different way. Like there's like how many different endings in Elden Ring? Like 9, 10?
I thought it was 9 to 12, something like that.
How long does this game take?
If you speed run it, like with like
I
as
think
a
if you
bad ending,
run
it's
it
like-
only a few hours.
I was gonna say no, I think it's like 20, 30.
Is it?
Yeah, that game's like anywhere from 20 to 40 hours because I think
So
Angel
can
beat
you
it.
pause
40.
at any point in the game
save
and
it.
then come back to where
Mhm.
you are and
Yeah.
that? Yeah, okay.
So anyway, so that's what makes the game so difficult, is because there's so much time investment in it, and then everyone has a different playthrough. I
Mhm.
remember my cousin I was mentioning from the last one.
Mhm.
He's stuck on a boss. This is actually a game I was mentioning.
Okay.
Yeah, you know Bebo.
Oh god.
So with that being said, he was stuck on this boss and had went through so much of the game, was like 3/4 of the way through the game before he got stuck. I found out so many other things that he never found, and I ended up having to relate to him because the world is so massive. Depending on your play style, like if you explore everything or just run through everything, you get different items. You can also pick up a bunch of side quests, so it makes the game even longer than what it is, and then you can restart the game after beating it to New Game Plus, which increases the difficulty level even more.
Makes it so
So
much
like, there's
harder.
no level, but all the enemies do get more health, like a health bonus, damage boost, that kind of thing.
And how many times have you gone back and played?
Oh man, I haven't even beat it the first time.
Okay.
I haven't either. I haven't
Really?
left the first
I'm
20
still-
minutes of the
And
game.
how long have you guys been after this?
When did Elden Ring come out? Like 21, 22?
Wow, so years.
And
Something
I
like
it's
that.
on and off because then I
'Cause
get
I was still in school.
well, it's 20, yeah.
And does
Yeah.
it haunt you that you haven't done it yet?
No.
Like, does it make you want to
I
go
don't
back?
care
Or
for soul games.
okay, so you just
Bothers me.
yeah.
I'm a true gamer.
I
though.
love story-based games.
What? Elden Ring has a great story if you
No.
do quests to bring you through a better ending. If
Nah,
you see
I
the
li-
Erd
I
Tree on
like-
fire, that's like the worst ending.
I like the straightforward stories like Red Dead Redemption.
Linear.
Yeah.
You like
I like
linear
the linear
games.
stories.
Yeah. So what do you think you're getting out of? I mean, obviously there's entertainment, right? And that it shouldn't be brushed past because it's an amazing part of life to be entertained by something, to be able to sit down and have those hours become something that you're really focused completely. But what else are you getting out of playing the games? Like, can you tell that your critical thinking is getting better? Is there anything else that you can feel like is improving from the experience?
I answered the last one.
I love the creative freedom that it
Yeah.
allows you.
Okay. Yeah, say more. What do you mean?
Like, you can really do anything with it, honestly. Right? Am I
Essentially, the paths, you're not wrong. Essentially, the paths and how you create and finish it. Like I said, it's such an open thing depending on how you play. So, let's say, for instance, I have a friend who likes playing a magic character. Same game, he builds a magical class for it. So he uses a wand, staff, whatever the case is, typical wizardry stuff. I like using a simple sword, dual katanas essentially. And I'll go through with that type of game style. But that drastically changes how you play. Either you're a far player, close player. Do I use items more frequently? So the freedoms of it typically allow you to like play to your own liking. There are metas online, like you can look it up, like how can I beat this, and you just
Yeah.
follow another player's play style, which in my opinion doesn't make it fun. So I'm all about figuring it out myself. But yes, to answer your question, I would say critical thinking does improve some because you're always faced with like adversity and like these incredible challenges. And when at the end of it, you feel great. So the same thing goes with life. I get frustrated. I start getting mad. Why is this not working? I analyze it the same way I would a game, and then I try
So
to
bring
pinpoint
us-
some solutions.
Yeah, bring us through exactly what are you analyzing? Like, what's the play by play?
In the game or like
Life, game,
okay.
either. Like, because I think the correlation between the two. I also want to get back to what I think what you were just saying. I think is really deep, which is that creative freedom is an extremely. I mean, it might be the primary goal that we all have. We talk about it all the time. Oliver's heard me say this 1,000 times, but I think the whole goal of getting financial freedom is so that you can reach creative freedom, because there is no way to be able to truly have creative freedom with your time unless somebody else doesn't own it.
That's fair.
So it's really interesting that video games offer that at such a low cost.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And I also was thinking, as you were saying it, that there's probably a direct correlation too for a lot of young men. You guys are, but a lot of young men who play video games, that you just come out of a school system that is anything but creative freedom. And then you step into going home or being able to be with your friends and doing the stuff where you're stepping into something that gives you easy access to creative freedom. That's got to be incredibly intoxicating when you look at the contrast between one and the other, especially if you're not enjoying one, the other one must become that much more appealing.
Mm-hmm.
I do agree. It was your topic. On elaborate more. What games would bring you like more creative freedom? Like, what do you feel the most from that?
I'm gonna go bare bone base Minecraft.
Yeah.
That's fair.
All right. Talk me through
Thank you,
why.
God.
Talk me through why Minecraft gets everybody. Because my kids liked Minecraft, but then at some point they not only liked playing Minecraft, but then I would walk up on them and they'd be just watching other people playing Minecraft. And I'd be like, guys, this is a step too far for me. Like, can't you at least do it yourself? You're just watching somebody else go and create their own world. Like, what that?
I
that's
never understood
crazy.
that aspect, because why would you watch someone else do it when you have the same capabilities of being just as creative with it?
Right.
Because it's an endless game.
But you Twitch, right? Which is essentially what that is somebody else is
Kind of.
watching your Twitch of you playing and like
Yeah.
just sort of being able to. So it must be a big market of people out there who want to watch other people play video games.
Yes. I'm sorry, my brain is still stuck on, what do you mean you don't want to watch it? For instance, if we're on Minecraft, redstones, all right? You ever try to
redstone
make
contraptions,
contraptions
yeah.
with redstone?
Nah.
You know how hard that is? Of course I'm going to watch somebody else explain it because I don't know what to do. It's
Nah.
step-by-step
God,
tutorial.
okay, so it's giving you secrets. It's giving you like
Yeah.
inside. Oh, that makes a ton of sense. I
Secret
never.
doors. There's whole...
I had my brother do all that for me.
Of course you did.
He's a nerd. He's a nerd for it.
I'm not going to front. I didn't know how to do it either, but it's okay. But for instance, fun fact, Oliver, I bet you didn't know, all right? But there's someone who created the Shrek movie
Okay.
within Minecraft, like literally frame by frame. That's a whole thing that I've been just hearing about recently on my TikTok. I was so baffled. I'm like, there's no way. And they were like, yeah, literally, it's the specific way with all the redstone and the contraptions and everything from a distance that literally generate images.
I did not hear about that, but yeah, it's really interesting that we've touched on probably the only two games that I know anything about, which is that I have played a lot of Minecraft, and even recently I have, and then Elden Ring is a game that one of my friends was really, really into, and so I played a little bit of that. I think Minecraft is the only game that like really gets my brain going because you get to build stuff, which is totally creative, and they're always adding new things you can do too with like with the redstone now. There's stuff you can do that's like wireless. With like these new like skulk sensors and stuff, so you can make all kinds of fun things. I get into really like decorating your world and making it look like cool, like doing like landscape architecture.
I agree.
That's always fun to do.
The abundance of minerals within the game that they've add for such aesthetically pleasing layouts that you can do. Like you can put your dream home in there. It's honestly amazing how far that game's come.
I think like one of the things that stands out to me about Elden Ring, but also about Minecraft and maybe just about games in general, which is really interesting, is that, well, to talk specifically about Elden Ring, like it's the definition of fantasy. Like Brett, you and I were talking a little bit on our, yesterday about the Lord of the Rings, which I'm a huge Lord of the Rings fan.
Yep.
I love it.
And that is like there's a lot of themes and interesting things about those stories and about Tolkien and the language that he created, but primarily what they're about is they're about escapism. That you read or watch these stories and you're sort of taken out of your own life into something that has value and sort of also has these tremendous heroes' journeys. But really what it's about is escapism, which I think a lot of the times can have a negative connotation. But I think the cool thing about movies, books, video games is that it makes escapism accessible in a way that can be very positive.
That's very in depth. Wow. Yeah, no, that actually does hit it. Yeah. Remember when I said it was like a negative thing? It's because of the escapism aspect. You typically wouldn't want anything else. You're so in tune with that world that this is what you typically think about or want to do all the time. That was it.
It's got to be tricky too, because if you love video games and you're on social media, now you've got two different kinds of technologies that are giving you dopamine hits for different reasons. And I know like dopamine might not be the only thing that's being released here, but we'll just use that as like a basic euphemism for the chemical release that's happening anytime you're playing this stuff. So does it, when you go home and you get into that mode, do you second guess whether you should be doing that or whether there's something else that you want to be doing, or are you just like you're all in
No.
and you're excited for it
What?
and you're like, I did my shit for the day, I want to go and
I did my job. I'm home. I can relax now and do my thing and not have to worry about it
I'm on the opposite
until he drags me
spectrum.
out of my house.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, socializing is great. Gosh,
He's like one of the only people that can drag me out of my house just by going, "Yo, you want to hang?" Sure.
Yeah.
Otherwise, he's always on the game.
That's not
Kids
true.
these days.
That's not true. I haven't been on the game recently.
But no, I do end up actually having that issue where I go home and I'm like, man, I really want, like all day I'll be like, man, I really want to go home and play. I really want to go home and play. But then I remember like, responsibilities. Like I have to feed the animals. I have to walk my dog. I then have to make sure is my house at a acceptable level of like cleanliness, dishes, garbage, maybe I have to shower. I also have my fiance that I have to engage, so I can't just drop everything
Right.
to go play the game. As much as I was thinking about it all day, I just sit there and go, is that really fair though?
Not even for Minecraft?
Not even for Minecraft. Although sometimes I can get her to get on Minecraft. We do play every now and then. It rarely happens, but we go on a binge because of all those great minerals. We have like a building house contest and like extravagant
That
rooms.
sounds
and
sick.
It
Yeah.
is awesome, dude. She is really good at designing things. It is ridiculous. Mine always pales in comparison. I'm always extra on the interior, but exterior, oh my lord.
Yeah.
Wish I
She-
brought my
bare
computer.
minimum.
I'd show you guys some
Always.
stuff I'm working on.
So what would you say is what's the best benefit that you get from the games? Because if you're thinking about them all day and you can't wait to get home and that's your sort of escape, like what do you think is the benefit of doing it? Is it because from what I can tell, there's two aspects from it. There's the game that you're playing and the way that your mind becomes immersed in it.
Mm.
But then it also looks like it is maybe one of the only places left where you can talk shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and not even like it looks like there's no rules to the way that you all, once you get into a game and you start talking to somebody else, it looks like it's kind of the last place on earth where people are just letting loose completely.
Modern Warfare 2 lobbies is the first thing I thought of.
Yep.
Oh my lord.
Sadly, though, nowadays most game companies they'll monitor the chats and you'll get in trouble and banned.
Okay.
To be fair, we really shouldn't be saying certain things, and the community tends to always lean toward those things. But it comes with the stress and aggravation. Realistically, I think it's just because people think that because it's all online that it doesn't affect people.
Yeah.
But there had been cases where the chat
Yeah.
went in court and stuff because someone killed themselves over certain things that were said. Like it does get really dark, and unfortunately, gaming does have some negative outsets, and it gives people a false sense of like I don't
Ego.
know. Yeah, like ego, security, like whatever I say can't come back to me. Like it is what it is. But yeah, I would say that depending on the game, well, I guess not depending on the game, depending on the person that you are, the certain game would help you, stress relief, whether it's talking shit or, completely unwind and be immersed in your game. For me, I know you play CSGO. So competitive games are where I would go. Like if I'm like super aggravated or agitated, I will go into competitive lobbies and then completely trash talk the other team. Why? Because they're bad.
Because it's fun.
Yeah,
know what
they're
was
hysterical.
Something that I heard about the other day, which is super funny. I can't remember where I heard this. I think it might have been my friend Zach, but he was saying that he was aware of some like monk or something that actually played CS:GO as a way to try and like practice being, resisting the temptation to get emotionally involved
Did he
in
do
things
it, or
or
did
to be
he
not
did he
frustrated.
engage?
I think he tried. I think the practice was aimed around not engaging, but yeah,
did he?
It,
Yeah. Did he
it
break
remains
down?
to be seen.
Okay.
That is so hard to do
It
on
is.
Counter-Strike because of how bad some players you can get queued up with on your own team is.
Right.
Then you can get paired up against super sweaty people on the other team,
Yeah.
and your whole team just crumbles, and you get so angry because no one's doing what they're
Sweaty
supposed
means
to be
good?
doing. Yes.
Sweaty means
Try hard.
way too good. That means like the
No
lobby-
life, 24 hours a
Oh
day.
my
They're
God.
on that game. They're a bum.
I'm
How
sure-
many people are out there that are doing that?
A lot.
Really?
There's a
Big
lot of
time
people.
streamers.
How are they-
always on games?
And are they making money from streaming, or how are they doing?
A lot of
this?
the big time streamers, yeah,
Th-
they have
that's their
sponsors.
job.
They sit there with ads essentially, and they sit there and play.
So I love to play basketball, and I have deep admiration for professional basketball players, right? Like when you watch a professional basketball player play, I'm like, the amount of stuff that person knows that I have no idea about. That's the technique, the the time that they put in. Is that the way that it feels when you're watching these, pro video game players, or or is there a different sense to the way that you feel about somebody who's spending 24 hours in front of the game?
I don't watch them because it's going to irritate me because I want to be at that level and I know it's going to be very hard, if not almost impossible, because of how much the platform grew over COVID
Mm.
and everyone being
And
home, just being.
what's the gap between you and them? Like, is it more time, hand-eye coordination? Is like, how would you describe what you'd have to do to be able to get up to that level?
I would say it's kind of like a mix of everything.
Yeah.
A lot of the main streamers, like top streamers, do that for a living. Like legitimately, that is all they do. Besides their daily routine or whatever the case is, but they sit there and stream their games. So one, they're playing it all the time. They know the ins and outs. What did they try? What didn't they try? Because there's a bunch of bloopers and stuff where they do something that they shouldn't have. They found out that, man, this doesn't work. So over their extensive period of gaming, they find out the best works. They find out the layout perfectly. Maybe if I, for instance, CSGO, I know some have like penetrable walls. If I shoot here, exactly right here, it penetrates through multiple walls and can hit an enemy that typically hides there. So they know the typical areas where people sit and hold points, and all that matters because you're extensively playing. I don't watch a lot of it. I just see like clips every now and then, but I know some people even go for the reactions off of the streamers. Some can be like super over the top. Some will even do stupid challenges that you can pay them to do. Like, oh, if you donate $5, I'll do this. Or like, donate and then tell me what I need to do. And they go through their whole game like that. It could be role playing. It could be competitive, like a first person shooter. It could be like brain games, whatever the case is, whatever you're looking for. A lot of them vary on what they do. Some have strong personalities. Some are just really, really good at playing. So then you'll be like, oh my God, I didn't even know I can do that. Like, that's possible.
Are we talking about thousands of people who are playing this way? Or are we talking about,
Yeah,
in
easily.
a single game, how many players are there in the world that are competing at any given time?
I mean, the platforms track it. I mean, so one day Counter-Strike could have 1 million people playing, but the next it could have 100,000 people playing.
It
Still, though,
fluctuates, yeah.
that's a lot of people, right? There's a lot of people.
Counter-Strike is huge. They just had their major in Germany that ended a couple weeks ago.
And a major is a competition where, yeah,
Huge competition.
yeah. And do we think that that's going to turn into the same level as professional sports?
Well,
It already
esports
is.
already on the same level. There's a whole community based around esports, and there you can win millions of dollars off of that.
Yeah.
So I would say, with technology coming a thing, and the gaming industry skyrocketing, and people enjoying these stories or the competitiveness, just to unwind,
Mhm.
there are so many opportunities now. But you would have to be honed in, and there could be some people who don't even play as much as others and still be significantly better.
Mm.
What is your reflexes? How does your brain work? It's all these little things that matter, and it differs per person. But time and effort is like the biggest portion. How much time do you put into it?
So interestingly, like, part of our theme tonight is discipline. And it's really, video games in particular are so interesting because part of discipline is showing up every day and playing a lot,
Yeah.
right? But then it feels like there's also the other side that you guys are dealing with, which is the discipline to not show up and play all the time. So I'd like just curious, how are you dealing with that, right? Because if you really want to go for it, you got to be all gas, no brakes,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And so you'd have to be super disciplined in the way that you are approaching playing a video game. But then you also, you'd have to some degree deal with whatever is the negative mental side of feeling like, man, is this good for for my actual health to be
Mhm.
playing a game this often to be able to get to the point where you can compete at that level?
I just got one easy solution to be the best gamer ever. Crap ton of time. Don't worry about relationships. And if you do, find a significant other that's in it. I actually play, as we should all know by now, that there's multiplayer games. So I've met plenty of good friends through, and we've been through several states, different countries, whatever the case is. We have this connectivity through it. But one of my good friends that I used to play with on Xbox, she actually met her now husband through gaming. So they were in two separate states, and through gaming, they ended up getting to know each other, passing their information, talking, and they ended up doing a trial to see how they were together. And now they're married, like years later. So now they live together, they game together, they go to work, they deal with life as a unit, which I thought was pretty cool because I was like, okay, cool. But their main passion is gaming. So they do their everyday life, but they play way more than I do. And at the end of the day, it's someone who shares their passion. So if you're going to dive headfirst into it, you either avoid it as a whole or find someone who shares your passion the same way you would with anything else.
I would 100% agree that if you want to be great at something, not that you want to just be good at it, if you want to be great at something, you got to be all in. There's no halfway into greatness. You gotta push your chips in. So that makes a lot of sense that if you wanted to have a relationship and you wanted to be all in on that, you'd have to be able to find somebody who was on the exact same wavelength. What I was thinking though, as you were talking, was that video games are such an interesting thing for us to break down in this particular way. I don't know if you guys would agree with this, but I actually think that real life is also just a game. It's just a giant social game that's happening at all times, and your job is to navigate all of these different social settings that you have to figure out how you can advance yourself in the greater game. The game changes all the time, so if you work at one job and then you switch over to another job, the baseline of the game is going to be about the same, right? You know that there's some sort of authoritative figure that you're going to have to deal with. You know that there is some sort of office politics or whatever that is that you're going to have to navigate. But the nuanced portion of the new job is going to be different because it's different people, different problems, different stuff, right? But if you guys agree that it was just a game, does playing video games, does it distract you from the bigger game? Or does it give you everything that you need playing a video game that if you could just apply what you learned there to the other game, that you'd be in great shape?
Any comments on this one?
I think you probably could apply it, depending on what you're actually trying to apply towards it.
So what do you see, like what could we break down from what you're getting when you're playing a video game that you could actually take into, and we don't have to say specifics for jobs, although we absolutely can if you want to talk about your job specifically, but where would we find the correlation between what you're learning in the video game and where it gets applied to how you start winning in life as much as you possibly can? Not to say that you can't make video game also winning at life, right? Obviously, if people are doing this professionally, that's an amazing avenue to be able to take. But if you can't make money with it, then you have to kind of start seeing where the correlation would be, I would guess. That's my...
I don't know. I would say just from that playing video games has helped my social skills in the real world just by being able to communicate with people through the broad spectrum of the video games.
Yeah.
But
what kind of communication have you picked up in video games that you can see playing itself out at work or different areas?
I used to not be sociable at all. Then I started getting into the VR aspect.
Yeah.
So like you could get into chat rooms with other people.
I never did that actually.
No.
I got to be honest, Zach, I'm surprised that you have said a couple times that socialization is not always easy for you because you've got a super chill, laid back personality, like very easy to be around. High level of easy to be around. So I would assume that if that's
It's
the way that you're...
comfortability state.
Yeah, but
Yes.
if it's helpful to you, I would be very surprised if anybody ever felt like they wouldn't want you to be in a room. You know what I mean? So you have a very high likability because you're so chill. You don't put off that energy where you're...
It's because I don't have an ego. I don't think I'm the best person in the room.
I understand what you
If
mean.
you get what I'm saying.
I totally understand what you mean, which I think is actually beautiful. Like if you look at what our conversation principles are, I would say the second one is probably the most important, or that has become very important to us, which is anyone who draws breath is my equal. Essentially, all that means, guys, is that like you can't look down on anybody, but you also, if you truly embrace the idea that when you walk into a room, you don't think you're better than anybody else, then you also have to walk into the room and know that nobody's better than you.
Mm-hmm.
You can't have one or the other. you have to be committed. If you're committed to one, it means you're automatically committed to the other. But you have to also understand that if you walk into a room and you think you're better than somebody, then that means you are definitely going to walk into a room where you think somebody's better than you,
That's a fair consensus.
right? So not having an ego is so complicated because in some ways it's a beautiful thing to do, to be able to put your ego down and to be able to kind of embrace the excellence of people around you. But then on the other end of that, you still have to be you,
Exactly.
right? And no matter what, you are the most important person to you. No one else will ever value what you do in your life more than
Besides
you.
yourself.
It's just logic, right? I'm not even
Mhm.
trying to say it as if this is like it's definitely not magical thinking. It's just we all only have one consciousness, unless you guys are having a different experience than me, and then I want to know all about what that experience is, and let's dive into that. That's
How
a
do
way
I
more
get
interesting.
more?
Yeah, but from what I can tell, we're all like, we're all just have this one vantage point that we're looking at things through, and there is lots of important people that come in and out of that vantage point, but none more important than you.
Mhm.
I always just like to say I'm the main character in my own story.
Yeah, whatever.
Those are the people that I think are the most interesting to be around, don't you?
Yeah.
So why do you think you're the main character in your own story? Like, break it down. And why do you think somebody else wouldn't feel that way?
Well, I mean, how are you not the main character in your own story? You're the protagonist or antagonist, whatever. It is what it is. But you, as you said, it's one vantage point. You're constantly going through your own viewpoint. You can understand what everyone else is thinking, like why they think what they think or why they're doing what they're doing. But at the end of the day, you still make the decisions on your behalf, which changes the outcome. Do I keep talking to these people? Do I like cut this person off? Do I do this heinous thing? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you are the narrator to your own story. It's weird that someone would think that they aren't a main character in their own story. We could all be equal, sure, but we could also all understand that we're the main characters of our own story because we're all going through life at the same time. So,
Yeah. I think that what often happens is that I don't know. Let's talk about it, right? I don't want to make any assumptions here, but I think you're right. People usually understand that they are the center of their own attention. It's extreme forms of that are called narcissism.
it borders.
But but on the other end of that, I think that it requires strategy to kind of figure out exactly how much of that is in your best interest. So like how much concentration on you versus concentration on somebody else. Where does that come in?
Hand raising.
Yeah, no, I like it. You can go to the bathroom too if you want to. You can
That's
do both.
not it.
Is
That's
that
not
your
it this time.
question?
Yeah.
No. Okay, so I have actually two things on that one. One, did anyone else adopt my hand raising thing?
Not yet.
Ugh,
But we'll try.
rude.
We'll see if we can get a trend going in here. With only 4 possible people sitting around a table, I don't know that anybody has felt the hand raising as.
I just don't like cutting into people.
No, it's a beautiful thing.
All right,
Let's see if it grows.
So on to the other one, right? We were on the conversation of how video games translate.
Okay.
One big thing on certain types of games are affinity. So it's essentially you're liked by the character, you're closer, you are either like anywhere from like a stranger all the way to like a romantic partner. So one thing that video games has helped me greatly with, as he said, it's more like sociability because it also helps me depict affinity because you have the option like Persona. You ever play Persona?
No, I've heard about it though.
Great game. Essentially, it's like a turn-based action game. You go through it. Essentially, you choose your companions who you go through, but you have the option also, do I hang out with these people on my days off? Do I do this? Do I do that? It has benefits to each different one,
Mhm.
but you have an affinity level.
Mhm.
And that has drastically helped me decide how to go through. Like, do I want to give this person my time? Do I want to do this instead? Do I want to benefit myself? Do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? And it's because it's helping me kind of depict where I am. Like you said, narcissism. So with this aspect, it kind of helps me narrowly avoid that line
Mhm.
because I'm the main character and now I get to choose what to do with my free time. Do I, spend time with my girl? Do I
Yeah.
spend time with my animals? Do I hang out with my buddy? Do I come to a podcast? So it helps with all these levels because it gives a mental picture in my head on my own image. Also, what do I want for myself?
Yeah.
So I think that's a cool aspect that I've developed from it, and it helps me navigate it a little bit.
I'm curious as you were going through that, when you're playing video games, especially games, because there's quite a few games where you have to work with other people, right? You described that earlier, that there's sweaty teams and yeah.
The not so great teammates.
Trash
So
bags.
what have you learned works when you're working with people? Like what is the strategy that actually helps you win more often?
General communication.
And what kind of communication?
Call outs. Depending on the game, you can do like my ult is here, my ability is here. It's general communication about the entire, like all the information you're intaking. How can you make that relevant to the other player? How can you, essentially, it's like note taking, like note jotting. How you condense it, you then just shoot it off to the next person in as few words as possible to kind of give that clear communication, to give them an alert on what's happening. Because we've already stated, you see from a vantage point.
Mhm.
So they have their own. They're worried about their own abilities. They're worried about their own enemies. They're seeing their position holds, while you have your own, which is typically how a good team would work with.
Mm-hmm.
And then you sit there and shoot off your entire perspective as brief and quickly as possible in a dire strat
Mhm.
to assist the other person. So I think communication is a big standing in no matter what you do,
Mhm.
especially in competitive or like livelihood. Now that you pointed out that I talk with my hands, I can't help but notice it.
That's good.
Yeah.
Just keep one up when you want to keep talking. You know what I mean?
When we were walking up, I was like, you talk a lot with your hands, just like a very Italian person.
Yeah, it's
I
good.
got sidetracked.
No, it's animated. It's good. I like it. The one thing that you were saying that was really interesting. It seems like the way that you're communicating in those games. I've always found that the best communication that you can have, especially, so I've done a lot of corporate training, and one of the things that you learn in corporate settings is that there's really only one form of communication that actually works, which is assertive.
Mm.
And there's a lot of communication that does not work. And the one that is the most prevalent in work environments is passive aggressive.
Mm.
So somebody who's like saying just enough to kind of like get the ball rolling, but not enough to make sure that everybody's fully informed with what the situation is, or trying to protect themselves in some way by withholding information or giving too much information. But what seems to work is giving exactly the amount of information that is necessary. Not too much, not too little, but finding that
fine line.
Between finding the language that allows you to be able to say exactly what is necessary for that situation, and not only the words that are coming out of your mouth, but also the tone in which you're doing it has a huge amount to do with the confidence that somebody feels in the other side.
Mm-hmm.
My very first major job that I ever had outside of college was that I got involved. I raced cars in the SCCA for a number of years. So we raced.
I love that, and
I'm
I would
super
love to
jealous.
talk about that more.
Yeah, we can
after
talk about that as
continue your thought.
we can talk about it as much as you want. But that experience allowed me to be able to have the opportunity to get involved in this advanced driver training school. And essentially, what we did in the school was we taught mainly municipalities, fire departments, police departments, high-speed accident avoidance maneuvers, so that if something happened in front of them, that they had the muscle memory and skill set to be able to avoid it while they were out there. So we'd rent these airport runways, and we would set up these cone courses that we'd have to go through to be able to do that. But what I found really quickly in coaching people through that process was that some people were very, very nervous when they got into the car, and their body was very nervous with the way that they were doing everything. And for a long time, I thought, I need to teach them the technique of what it is that they're trying to get done. So I need to make sure that I'm giving them more commands of like where their hands should be and when to turn. And then what I figured out as I actually started to get good at it is it was all in the tone of voice. So it was just like, listen, I can tell you're nervous. That's okay. Everything's going to be all right. This is actually much simpler than you think it's going to be. It's just taking something that you do every day, and we're just going to add a couple simple steps to it. And we're going to do it one step at a time, so that you make sure that every time we take a run, you're just building one small thing on top of the next thing, on top of the next thing. And then before you know it, you're going to get out of this car and you're going to be an absolute expert in what it is that we're trying to do. And as long as I believed it and I said it as calmly as I possibly could, and I was only, 21, 22 years old saying this to police officers. So I was scared. It was a situation where I felt a little out of my depth as well. But it was a great learning lesson on the idea that tone is almost more important than the actual words themselves, that if you can get that tone right. So what's the tone when you're playing the video games? Is it,
I would say you hit dead on because if you come off too aggressive, now they're automatically going to whip back at you and want to go against your call outs or what your say is.
okay?
But if you're
because I feel that sense of just aggro right off because you didn't communicate in the correct tone that it should have been.
Okay, so that's super interesting, right? Because that is 100% translatable to what you're going to find everywhere else in the world.
Yep.
If you start with aggression, you're going to get aggression back. I don't think that's deniable, right?
No, I don't think so at all. But on the opposite end, if you come off with, as you said, just enough, but also self-preserved, then you're also going to get nitpicked. One, okay, so if you had this bright idea, why didn't you relay this? Why didn't you say this? Where were you? What were you doing? Because now it brings attention to you with your lack of ability, but you have so much to say. So it's a little bit in between because some people are obviously stronger players while others are better supporters. With that being said, if everyone finds their niche or role and then kind of like gives clear communication with like a respectable tone, but straight to the point, so it's like it comes off as aggression almost, but it's like direct.
Right.
Um,
Am I correct in video games that there is no hiding? Like you are just as good as you are. It's not like you can come on and be like, "Oh, I'm the greatest video game player ever," and then you get out there
That's
and
the ego.
yep.
right. I mean, I'm
There-
sure
there
people
really is no facade.
right.
It's
I'm
like,
sure people
you know,
do it. I'm sure people come on and they are obnoxiously, creating a persona that doesn't really exist. But once you get into the video game, it teaches you, it level sets that, correct?
You're asking the wrong one
Why?
because
Yeah.
I am a shit talker through and through.
Okay.
So I'll have. It's depending because I
But do you
have.
back it up. That's the question.
Here's the thing though, because I can be really, really, really good some days and really, really bad in other days. So it's really depending. Is my mind completely cleared? Am I having anything on my mind other than the game? Is my background too noisy? Like literally, there's so many minuscule things that do play into it.
Mm.
Well, there's also games where you can just pay to buy all the best equipment with real money.
Pay to win. Yeah, but
I don't like
things
those people.
But things like CS:GO and like Rainbow Six Siege or Overwatch, things like that, which are mainly competitive games, they
Yeah.
don't have a pay to win aspect.
Pay to win also exists big time in racing.
No, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? So every game kind of has that to some
Yup.
degree, but yeah.
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, you can pay to win, but where's your skill at? Because you're paid for equipment only goes but so far. Does your skill carry you past that limitation, or are you using that to supplement your skill? That goes through games, that goes through real life. That's everywhere essentially.
Mhm.
But I got off topic, so now I don't remember what I was saying.
It's okay. I think you were saying that
God spoke. That's why.
you try to
me.
you try to stay you do a lot of shit talking, but you have you back it up, but you have to figure out how to make sure that your daily hygiene is in good shape to get into the
Essentially.
game, because sometimes you come in and you haven't done what you needed to and you're a shell of yourself. I think
Yeah.
that's what you were saying.
My cousin loves to bash me because I'm typically the best player that we play with. He knows. So I'm typically the best player. But as soon as I have one off game, oh my
It's
lord.
the end of the world for the rest
You
of the night. He
cannot let it
shit
down.
talked all on him all night.
Yeah.
It is toxic, but it's I thought you were so good. Why aren't you carrying me? So we end up sitting there and bashing each other the entire time. And for better or for worse, sometimes it helps get us motivated. Other times it's like, you know what? I think I've had enough of this game. I'm done. This is not what I need right now. I'm already mad.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
All right, so that seems like another part of the video game culture that could be really helpful for regular life, which is emotional regulation. How do you get into a video game that you really want to win? And, I would assume that video games not only pull at the natural up and down that you feel when you do anything, when you play anything, but they also know how to hit you in your nervous system in ways that I think most games can't. I mean, we could use racing as a real life example of another one that kind of pulls at your nervous system a little bit. naturally because of what you're doing, but video games are really, really intense with how good they have gotten at understanding that if you're like, you get somebody focusing here and then all of a sudden like a zombie comes here, like that actually hits your nervous system and releases something that you've got to deal with in that moment to be able to figure out how you still respond appropriately. I'm gonna kind of making this up as I go because I don't know much about video games, but
Well, no, you've been pretty on
Getting-
point.
Been pretty
Yeah?
on point, very
Alright.
accurate.
okay. So how does emotional regulation fit into your experience there?
That's a tough one because if you talk to any competitive gamer, it's an up and down there.
Yeah. All right, let me
It's a
ask it
windy
in
road.
let me ask it in a different way. If you became more emotionally regulated, do you think that that would more consistently improve your video game performance?
For me, I'd say yeah.
I would agree.
And where does your emotional regulation get thrown off? Where do you find yourself?
Frustration.
Yeah.
Losing,
Yep.
where we were talking about bad teammates or like bad communication, that can trigger you. You can be the best person on your team, but everyone else isn't communicating. So like, let's say he died 2 seconds before I did. He could have said, "Hey, to your left." He didn't. I'm looking to my right still because I'm expecting a flank. Within that 3 seconds that it happened, that he could have communicated, I die now. Now I pin the blame on him.
Rather than him being able to instantly turn to
Mhm.
try to
Counter the
prevent it.
threat. So communication does go through a lot, and the regulation, I would say, if we were like calmer, we could probably go, all right, guys, maybe if we did this a little differently, or this was the case. But again, you also have to take into account of other people's attention to detail and their emotional regulation and how their skill level. So you can't, even if you give the best advice, it's up to them whether they want to accept it. So then, I mean, at the end of the day, I guess I would have more fun rather than be aggravated.
Yeah.
It's interesting to listen to you guys talk about it too, because I mean, the way that you're describing playing these video games sounds like the same way that you might hear like a special forces operator talk about the way that they're talk through a formation that they're going into to actually go into battle. Does it obviously let's not make the mistake of thinking that playing a video game and being a special forces operator are anywhere in the same planet, right? But I'm just saying the communication that you're using seems like you're adapting your communication to what you probably understand is effective for, the most elite at doing exactly that in the real world.
There's a lot of overlapping variables with it, yes.
I've
Do you-
got a question.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, how do you guys find that what's the difference in the aggravation level or the need for emotional regulation if you're playing a game where you're constantly being thwarted by another player, or in Elden Ring when, Godric is putting your foolish ambitions to rest over and over again? It's just a computer and you just have to get the right sequence or whatever it is. Like, is there a tangible difference there?
That's a good question. I, from my experience, would say that they're nearly identical because at the end of the day, I'm more frustrated in my own execution rather than another's. And if going into competitive games, I would have another outlier,
Mhm.
which is typically not for team players. Like there's in any team sport, you can put 100% in, still feel like you lacked, but you still have another source to blame, which isn't always the best, obviously. But in my sense, I would say it's about the same because I always sit and go, why do I suck so bad? What did I mess up? Was it the angle? Was it this move that I could have parried that I messed up the timing on? Either way, it's more frustration in my own output, I guess.
Can you practice, like if you know that you have a deficit, so you're feeling insecure about how good you are at a game, especially a game that you're playing with other people, you go into that, you recognize where the deficits exist. Is there a way to be able to go off for the next time you play and figure out how to practice those things, or can you only practice in the real game?
Depends on what game.
Okay.
Like Counter-Strike, going back to that, you can go into an offline mode with bots.
Mhm.
And then people make custom maps for like aim training where they have bots sitting in certain spots where everyone sits. so you can swing the angle and try to find where they are, try to actually get it, so you can put that in an actual game scenario.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's from my experiences, though.
it does differ per game. If you're going into a game like Elden Ring, really that's just an action. There's no way you can practice, but that's two different types of games. So one's more of like an RPG, and one is more of a competitive shooter.
Yeah.
Competitive shooters typically give you a lot more room. RPGs, it's really trial or error. You either succeed or you don't. You go to your last save, or in Elden Ring sense, you die. You go back to your last save point, but you lose like all of everything you earned. It's something called souls for XP. You trade it for experience or use it for store purchases. You let's say you have like 1,000,000. You
Mhm.
die, you lose it all.
Mhm.
So you have to go back to the same point. Yeah, no,
To
it's
collect it, you don't
grueling.
even get all of it back.
It's
Okay.
no, you do.
You do?
You do. If you get there.
And
But
what does
if
it feel like when you lose that? Like, what's
Oh, dude.
the emotional? I mean, does it get you angry enough where you feel like you need to throw your controller across the room?
Stick
Is it
drift
just
for days?
really?
Yeah, no, I'm so serious.
And what it like? Walk us through what that looks like for you. Are you difficult to be around when you get to that point? Are you just mopey, or are you?
I would say it's really depending on the game and depending on the day. Sometimes I know I'm difficult to deal with because all I hear from across the room is "shut the fuck up,"
Okay.
and then I'm just like, okay, guys, I gotta get off this game because clearly I'm getting too heated and I didn't even realize I was. Other times, the best times to game is when no one's home because I don't get regulated besides for myself. But those are the times I bounce my controller. Those Souls games are crazy annoying, dude. I was stuck on a boss for I whole quit Liza P. The DLC was too grueling. Me and my cousin are stuck on it.
Mhm.
And I'm a little off topic. There's an NPC that you can get to help you, but we do not like accepting help within the game. So we try to do it ourselves, and we've gotten it so close to where like a heavy attack would do it, but you ran out of stamina, and we died. Full health bar gone in a split second. And that was one of the moments I bounced my controller. I'm not saying I'm necessarily proud of it, but them things are expensive.
Oh,
But
listen.
yeah, no, emotional regulation would help greatly on my cost efficiency.
But anybody who's after it, you can't not. You know, I when my older son got a little bit older, after he was like right before he got his license, he wanted to start getting into motorsports. So I didn't want to put him into I didn't want to put him into a situation that he was over his head. So I found this organization that does endurance go-karting. And you can go and you can rent a go-kart from them, and the two of us were able to run these 6-hour endurance go-kart races where for 6 hours straight you have to, you get in and out of the same go-kart and you go for it. But it was probably the first time in my son's life where he ever saw me do something where I had real red mist. Where like it's not a big deal. It's not a super serious race, but for whatever reason, when I get into that environment, that particular environment, go-karting or racing,
It's the competitiveness.
there's something that takes over that's different than anything else that I do. I just want it so bad. I want it so bad that if anything stands in the way of us being able to, meet the goals or win the race or whatever it is, my emotional regulation is a fraction of what it is in my regular life. And a couple of times even, I was really proud of him. A couple of times my son was even like, "Dad, get it together. You need to calm down a little bit." And like, so I get it. The question is with the video games, is there a translation? If we thought for the rest of the conversation that we're having, right? Today is about discipline and technology. But I think what we could continue to kind of play with is this idea of our digital world and our analog world.
Okay.
So what's the experience that we're having in the digital world and how is it amazing and what can we learn from it? But then also what's happening in our analog world of, making sure that we're operating there and that we're finding some balance between those two places. My question for the two of you is, have you ever found anything in the analog world that got you the same level of satisfaction than you're finding in the digital world?
Driving.
Okay. So walk me through that because I could relate to that to some degree. And I'm really curious how that hits you in the same way.
I want you to elaborate. That was your thought.
I have a question. Have
Please.
you ever watched the movie Gran Turismo?
Yeah. Is that the one where they build those Nissans and they're
And they have the kids that hit the top leaderboards on The Sims
yes,
simulators.
I think if I haven't watched the whole thing, I at least started it, so I got the basic premise of what it is.
It's
Yeah.
really good. If you don't think you've watched it all the way through,
Go for
watch
it.
it all the
Okay.
way through, please.
Okay, I'm gonna
That's
take
pretty
that
solid.
recommendation. I'll do it.
That's where I get into with driving, because I used to have a sim, and then I started driving,
Mm-hmm.
and because I don't have a sim anymore, I go drive.
Yep.
And my car's not busted.
Yep. And so, what does that driving experience feel like for you? Like, what is it that you're?
I'd say freedom, but
I was thinking when you were saying creative freedom in video games, it's one of the things that I enjoyed about racing the most, and that I've never necessarily found in any other sport,
Mm.
is that it's very intoxicating to take something that you're doing on a regular basis that people are constantly telling you how to stay within their rules and their guidelines, and then you go out to an environment where every single person out there has committed to the idea that they're going to go as fast as that car can possibly go. Now, the difference between people who are, I have an older brother who I would say is an exceptional driver and has done professional level racing, and I was not as good as him. It was I understood this from the very beginning. I could consistently run with him, but if you had to put in a really fast lap, that's the guy that you want in the car, not me. You know what I mean? And you get that. But the rush is what everybody got across the entire field. There wasn't anybody who got into those experiences who wasn't getting that. Is that what you're feeling?
fix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
I would have to agree.
Higher or lower than what you're getting when you're doing the video games? Higher?
I would say higher because there's actual
You actually feel it.
you
Feel it through your body.
and
Yeah.
then I think you also on the back of your brain have to process the consequences of it going wrong. So it gives you another boost to just doing it correctly.
Mhm.
Obviously, not to say that people should be speeding on the highway or whatever the case is. That's stay within the legal standard. But when anyone can relate, when you go faster, it does give you that little bit of an adrenaline rush. Or what
Yeah.
if I, go in between these cars and just start going in and out of pockets? It just gives you that sense of freedom and the almost the euphoric sense because it's so surreal and your heart is racing and you're so in tuned with everything going on, which is why I think like things like manuals or motorcycles are such a great thing because you're so in tune with the vehicle and everything that's going on around you that it gives you that satisfaction.
Yeah.
So I'm actually insanely envious that you got to drive, dude. I would love to go to a course. I want to learn to drift. I want to
I'm
go
saying,
so
if
guys
I
bad.
had the
auto crossers?
opportunity, I would take it in a heartbeat. I'd drop everything.
Would you say?
Everything.
Well, if
Oh.
you guys, I can check in this weekend. My brother's running an endurance race at New Hampshire Motorsports Park in Loudon. He has a Jetta.
Is there?
I'll tell you what.
another
Here's what I'll offer you guys because I try to make this offer to anybody who comes on the podcast because I appreciate the time and the generosity for you guys to be here, putting ourselves out here as much as we can. If you guys ever want to get into motorsports, you have a friend who has a lot of connections in motorsports, and I'm more than happy to connect the dots for either of you to make sure you get that opportunity. I will say the thing about motorsports, the way that my brother and I actually got into motorsports was because I don't know if he's going to like that I say this on a podcast, but when he was in college, my father had raced cars. So we grew up in a culture where we always had a love for motorsports. But when he was in college, he had a motorcycle and he tried to run away from the police on his motorcycle and it didn't work out. And so I don't know exactly what the story is because there's nobody's told me the exact details in between here and there, but my dad had to go to Vermont and work it out, however they were all worked it out. But my dad took a very unorthodox approach to the way that he handled the next thing is that he bought us a race car. And he said, I will give you this, I'll make this one investment on your behalf for the two of us to be able to share this. It was a first generation RX-7, which I don't know if you know what those are,
Yes,
but they have this
sir.
very strange Wangle engine
Is
and
that
like
the rotary engine?
the rotary engines, and they
Dude,
they sound like, and they kind of feel like driving a very high powered weed whacker. It's like, you know,
It
they're
does not do it justice.
very strange vehicles. But but he did that, but what he said to us was, never again. Take all of this energy that you have and get it out in a place where it's completely appropriate to do it. But if I ever see either of you, you know, get yourselves into a situation where either you'll kill yourself or you could kill somebody else by doing this in a car or motorcycle, all of his support was going to go away. And it was, at the time, seemed like, you know, if we told anybody else that, they would have thought that that was a really unorthodox parenting move. But now I look back at it and I think, based on how I feel about my sons and how much I would not want them to get hurt in a car, and how much I know cars can mess you up if you're not careful, and what it's like to do that on the road and how dangerous that stuff can get. It's like, oh, that's a small investment for what it gave the two of us, which was freedom. And that freedom on a racetrack is so unique because you can make any maneuver you want in any way that you want. There's a social contract you have with everybody else that's on the track, because if you wipe them out, then the chances are next time they might wipe you out, in the same way you talk about video games, right? Like there's this, you have to build a trust over a long period of time with these people that you know you're going to navigate it together. But you might have had a question that I didn't get back to. Did you have one that you wanted to go?
Got the brain of a duck too.
I had something that I thought you guys might be interested in, which is, you know, if you're looking to do some more like, you know, fun racing and stuff. This was something that I didn't know about until a friend of mine um, showed it to me, and I was pretty shocked by it, which is the existence of autocross. And so there's these events that are, you know, a lot like what Brett's describing with his training, where you go to these places, usually airports or parking lots, and it's like a very organized event. You pay like $50, and usually there's pizza, and you know, there's a track with a bunch of cones set up, and devices that time your runs. And so you spend half the day driving your car, whatever you bring, and trying to get your best time through the track. But it's not about like speed, it's usually about precision through the cones. And you can also ride in the other cars of people that are there. People usually have some pretty crazy stuff, and they're always happy to let you go for a ride. And then you spend the other half of the day out there, making sure that you pick up all the cones that get hit, usually getting extremely sunburned if you're not careful. Um, but it's like I was pretty shocked that you could pay $50 and spend a day doing that. If you know, I only did it a couple times, but definitely, even in that short amount of time, I was like, wow, I don't think I ever knew how to drive my car before today.
That does sound very cool.
Yeah, autocrossing is an excellent way to get into motorsports. It's you have to show up with something, so that's part of the challenge. You know, is you have to have a car that can withstand you know, going through that stuff, which is not impossible. It doesn't take a lot, but
Can you imagine whipping a Jeep Compass?
that would be fun. Yeah.
Imagine whipping my shit box.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a little HHR, and the only fun part about it is I leave my rear suspension blown, so it hits corners a little bit more aggressively, and I can only imagine whipping that thing.
Yeah. The most fun I've ever had on the track, and second wouldn't be all that close to this, if I'm being honest, was that one time I was on a project working for an automotive manufacturer, and they had rented out Indianapolis, the entire track.
Okay.
And I was a part of a team that was setting up on the north side of the track. So there's a north and a south. And our job was to prepare that side of the track to allow us to be able to do hot runs in Range Rover Sports. And because I had a performance driving background, they had put me on a part of the team that our only job was to go out there and figure out how we could safely prepare this track to be the best possible situation for those particular vehicles. But we had limited tires, so we couldn't actually run that vehicle through that track very many times, because otherwise the next day, those heavy SUVs, they roll through tires like crazy. So we went and we rented a Yaris. You know what I'm talking about? That little,
Yeah.
I don't even know if they sell them anymore, but
They
a little
do.
Toyota Yaris, like the teeniest, tiniest little
Mhm.
thing. And we spent 8 hours straight driving it as hard as we possibly could around the north side of Indianapolis. And we just had an absolute blast, not because the car was any good or just because the fun of doing that is taking anything to its limits. And sometimes the lower the limits, the lower you feel like your risk factor is, and the more you can kind of let loose a little bit and kind of figure out right where that was. And if it's a rental, you really feel like you have a lot more ability to be able to not worry about it quite as much. But my question still comes back to for us to analyze, like, so, you know, we got a chance to talk about the digital experience of what it is, which I would say from talking to you guys, the thing that I think we should point out as being a major benefit of playing video games is accessibility,
Mm-hmm.
right? And an equality of opportunity, because almost anybody can find themselves in a situation where if you really work for it, if you go get a job, you apply yourself, you can get a television, you can get a video game console, and you can purchase a game that would allow you to be able to hone your craft into being excellent.
Forgetting one.
What's that?
That amazing device that I mentioned in the beginning.
What's that?
There's phone games now. Phone games have like drastically got so much better. Like honestly, even at work, sometimes I'll find myself playing a phone game.
Yeah.
Because it keeps my attention. It's pretty fun. There's the same thing that you would in a game, but those games have like drastically gotten better in the last like 10 years.
They have League of Legends on the phone now.
Dude, they have Siege on the phone.
No,
Right.
They have
which is-
Resident Evil.
which is like amazing
huge games.
and a little scary for how much access you actually have to that now,
Smartphones.
right?
It's so
I
bad.
would actually say that video games is almost getting to the same level of conversation as pornography, where it's like it's one thing. I don't mean that they are parallels. I just mean that what I'm saying is when I was a kid, if you
the
found
addictive drive of it, right?
if you found a magazine somewhere under somebody's bed, that was like hallelujah, right? But now I think of kids
Do you have
having
games
a
on your phone?
phone and the access that they have to
games on
everything
your
that they have there. How would you slow down that time in your life? And video games could get to the same point where it's like, in the beginning, it was like you could get access to them if you had a television, you had a console, you had all of this, you were in the right environment, you had all of your equipment. But now if you can get access to that on your phone everywhere you're going, and the second that you're bored with something that's going on, you can get out and play something that is extremely stimulating to everything that you're thinking about.
It's good and bad.
It's going to be very hard for the younger part of the generation into the new.
So let's talk
because-
about that, because I think we have a responsibility to try to figure out how we help a younger generation deal with that. And it doesn't really feel to me like dealing with it is saying don't play any video games. That doesn't seem like that's going to work. So how do we do it? What do we do?
I would love to elaborate on this, but can I take a potty break?
Of course. Yeah.
That's crazy because I also wanted to say that, but I didn't want to pause.
Yeah.
I didn't want us to pause.
No, let's pause. Let's pause. Both of you go take a bathroom break, and then we'll come back and we'll pick up from there. Okay. So for anybody who's listening, we just took a quick bathroom break, but we're back. What I was thinking, gentlemen, well, let me say first, do you guys think that we did a fair job in being able to discuss the benefits of video games, or what we concentrated on, but technology in general? Is there anything about like social media that is a massive benefit to the two of you that you want to talk about before we move on to question 2?
I would say the only benefit for it is connectivity. I guess the best comparison I would have for that is how our own national like news neglects stories that other nations are more willing to discuss,
Mhm.
because obviously to some degree there's control within that.
Yeah.
And they limit your knowledge, but in other places you find that, that isn't always the truth that's actually happening, and you're finding out all this information due to social networking. TikTok being one of the big ones that came into play that was showing a bunch of world news.
Yeah.
And that's a wild one to me.
Yeah. This actually came up when we were discussing this theme in particular, but one of the baseline theories that we use to build everything that we've built here is, and I want to be really clear, what I'm about to say is not something that I'm asking you guys to believe is true. I'm just saying this was the theory that we used to be able to kind of open up our minds to think a little bit differently.
Okay.
And the idea was that we try to evaluate that your body and your mind might be exact mirrors of each other. And in this way, that if you wake up and you look in the mirror at your body and you decide that you want to make a change, you want to get in great shape, you want to, there's really only three major mechanisms that you can use to be able to make that change. So the first one is the consumption of calories. So what calories are you choosing to intake, and what's the quality of those calories? And then the next thing that happens is those calories are converted into fuel. And then the third option that you have once the fuel is there is movement. And the more you use that movement in very specific ways, the more your body will create muscle memory to be able to do those movements well. Does that all seem any flaws in the thinking there for the?
No,
It's pretty solid.
Okay. So here's the other side is that the mind is much more challenging because it's all invisible stuff that's going on, right? There's nothing that anybody can be like, that is 100% how this works. That's how this works. But what my experience was, because as a parent, I noticed that my kids were getting, when they would get physically sick, like if they had the flu, that it almost exactly mirrored the way that I saw them getting, like having a temper tantrum. So my older son, when he got the flu, he might want me to be there to like put my hand on his back and just be like, it's all good. We're going to be all right. And, but my younger son was like, just let me puke, get the hell away from me. And then I'll come out when I'm done. You know what I mean? Dramatic differences. And when they would have temper tantrums, it was exactly the same thing. My older son felt much, wanted me to kind of like be there. My younger son was like, just needed to have his space and be done with it. So it started making me like think, okay, like, is that mean that there's a parallel between your physical body and your mind that we can start to explore? And the parallel that we started to explore was the idea that if calories are the fuel for your body, then it's likely that information is calories for your mind, right? So whatever you're consuming, whether it's video games, the news, conversations with a friend, anything that you're consuming that is information-based is the calories that your mind is taking in at any given time. Then once you have those calories, it converts those calories into decision making. And you have to make a decision at any given time based on all the information that you have. And then the last component, which would be movement in the body, is your ability to be able to communicate your decisions.
Okay.
Same three steps, right? So with all of that in mind, if you were willing to take the thought experiment where you're like, okay, this all makes sense. Maybe there is a correlation. Maybe we could see this mirroring effect between the mind and the body. The question is, when you think about your mind and you think about the information that you're taking in, how much of the news that you're getting from social media do you think is junk food?
at least half,
I would.
the bare minimum.
Okay.
Well, are we going off of news in general, or like
Let's go.
Fox
Let's go
News?
anywhere with it, right? Like maybe let's start really high. If you just turned on the television and you watch the news. Now, I want to be honest. I stopped watching the news probably years before COVID,
Mm.
and in the beginning, I felt a little bit guilty about it. I thought like, oh man, I'm not being a very good citizen of the world. I should have, but I felt so much better about myself. Like very, very quickly, felt like I wasn't dealing with this constant, I don't know, fuzziness of everything that was going on. And the problem is that if you switched over, like if you watched MSNBC and watched that for 15 minutes and then you turned on Fox News, you'd be like, I don't know, they're both kind of making compelling cases, but neither of them, they're talking about the same thing, but they're both making completely different cases. So where's the truth? Well, like what's that middle ground? But the question that I started asking myself, and it felt like a healthy one, and I've stuck with it, which is just like, okay, I have to look at the calories that I put into my body as, are these good calories or bad calories? Because I definitely know that a Twinkie is a bad calorie.
Tastes delicious.
Exactly. So it's not that I don't want one sometimes, and sometimes maybe I have one. Like, ice cream is probably not the best thing to fuel your body before you want to go out and do a marathon. But it doesn't mean that you should stop eating ice cream if you want to enjoy your life, right? So I'm not saying that you should stop doing any of this. It's not a good or a bad thing. I'm just saying if we imagine that those two things are the same, then let's start evaluating what are good calories and bad calories for your brain as far as the information that you're consuming. So let's go all the way out and zoom out and say the news. So what percentage of the news do you think is really positive, healthy food versus what is junk food in your guys' opinion?
I would say the only thing that would be positive almost is if like you're into stocks or anything, because then you can see certain ups and downs. You can see crises that specifically happen that would directly affect your intake. Things like that would be a little bit more ideal. I would say as a whole, though, news is either full of cush stories or overinflated stories. So there's almost no true sense of like understanding in any of it because it's so obscured to either make you think it's not a threat or that it's overly a threat. There's almost no middle ground.
Right. Well, I think that also relates beautifully to what we said earlier, which is that if you want to be effective, you can't be more or less. You have to be exactly what is, right? And it's, that's interesting that seems like what you're describing is lacking when you're, when you're getting into that level. Okay. So then let's just take television in general. How much of television do you think is good calories
None of
versus
it.
bad
None of
calories?
it.
None of it.
Okay. What about video games?
I would honestly say, truth be told, none of it because as you said, it takes away from the grander game that we're playing.
Right.
But as we've already also like said, it does correlate some with reality.
Yeah.
Communication skills, connectivity, simple things like that. But it's I guess with like anything, like with the ice cream, it's really depending on the amount that you intake and what you do with it. Do you choose to do it positively during a time that's necessary, or do you choose to do it in the worst possible moment? Like if I got on my phone right now not that it's here, but if I got on and started playing on my phone, that would be an improper time to play video games. So it really just depends on conscientious use almost.
It makes a ton of sense. It's also, too, I think the three of us would agree that if the three of us didn't eat for 7 days and then you put ice cream in front of us, I don't give a shit what those calories are. We're just eating the ice cream because it's
Give me
some
something.
calories. Like, just give me something to get in my body so that I don't collapse, right? So context is everything because it's there are the same principles might be true that there is good calories, bad calories, good information, bad information. But no matter what, you have to have calories all the time. You can't stop. It's never ending. And it doesn't look like your brain ever stops collecting information either. It looks like it's doing it all the time. And then it always has to turn whatever it's collecting into a decision. And then it always needs to communicate whatever that decision is in some way. It doesn't appear that it gives you a stop. So as we go through all of these different levels of of the broad news that you can get, the television that you can get into, and then the video games that you're doing, maybe we just take that sort of conversation into question 2 and see where it goes.
I'm down.
Yeah? Okay, you ready?
Not really. I'm very poor with reading out loud.
Oh, this is going to be easy. You're good.
Do like these though, like he was saying.
Okay. Appreciate the endorsement.
Ooh. How do you decide when technology is serving you and when you're serving it?
Oh, interesting. I would say that almost bleeds into what we were saying. We were on the similar aspect. I would say more so in a now sense rather than like a fantasy sense, like a Terminator kind of thing.
Mhm.
When you can't let go of it,
Mm.
when you're constantly on it, when you're constantly craving it, like when we're at work and we're like, man, I could really go home and play some video games, or oh man, that show, I can't stop watching it, so now I've neglected all my life duties because you're just so enveloped in it.
Right.
So that's an interesting broad statement because it can go so many ways.
Well, it's kind of like, do you blame the drug manufacturer or the drug user? And I'm not saying that it's the same thing, right? But addictions are addictions. Like if you get addicted to anything, you still got to break that.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
breaking an addiction is not easy. It doesn't matter whether it's video games, doesn't matter if it's substances. And I don't know that you can do anything that doesn't become some level of an addiction. If it becomes a pattern in your life, it's hard to say what the difference is between a pattern and addiction. But probably the line that is easiest for us to talk about is whether you can do that thing in moderation. So if you start not being able to control yourself from wanting to do this thing in times where it's inappropriate, that's got to be at least a siren of when it's stepped over the line of being something that has become a consideration of an addiction, right?
You want to touch up?
No, I agree with him honestly, because that's where it is.
Yeah.
Essentially.
So if you get to the point where video games technology starts to feel like it's possessing a lot of you, drawing you towards it a lot, how do you guys deal with it?
I've taken a step away from video games multiple times for months on end.
Yeah.
Like without even like looking at it, like not even turning it on to go on YouTube or anything.
Hmm. And how did you feel when you did that?
Honestly, a lot better. And then the second you get back on it, it's that addictive rush of just hollow point vision.
Yeah. People describe the same thing for social media too.
The doom scrolling.
Yeah, I was saying to Oliver, I'm in a part of my life where I got divorced a year and a half ago, and just starting to kind of figure out whether I want to get back out and figure out if I want to start dating again. And so I decided that I would go on to a dating app.
You don't
Hinge,
want to do that.
right?
No
I went on-
dating apps.
And I went on a Friday, created a profile, and I quit by Sunday because
Swipe.
I could just feel my attention being pulled away from my kids. I could feel my attention being pulled away from my business. I could feel my attention being pulled away from everything, and just to figure out who was showing interest in me and who I was already in a conversation with. And it was so the opposite of what I had given my brain for a long time, that I felt immediately like I was disgusted with myself that I had allowed that to happen, and I quit. And part of me was like, oh, did I quit on something that I just needed to go further into? And the other part of
Can I
me
give
was
my
like,
input on that.
please, yeah.
I hate dating apps because you can just throw on a facade. Whereas, like, if you were to go out to like a public bar,
Yeah.
you can actually talk to someone face to face like we are and have a genuine connection rather than through a screen where you're texting and swiping and all that.
Yeah. So
I like the personal, in person, general connection.
So have you met people in bars that you felt like you've had
Oh,
connections
100%.
that have turned into long-term relationships
Mhm.
and that kind of stuff? Okay.
Not relationships, but like friendships and stuff.
Yeah.
Like how I met him. He came into the room that we were all hanging out with, smack talked, came and chilled, and I offered him a beer.
Yeah.
And that's our story of how we became friends, because I offered him a beer.
Amazing.
I literally walk in and talk shit about all their Magic decks. They were playing a trading card game, and I was like, all of your guys'
yeah.
decks suck. And I was literally just coming in from work. I saw
Yeah.
them, and I had to talk shit. And then now, months later, we're still hitting it off.
Well,
I'm like their
there's
adoptive child that they just keep dragging everywhere.
there's a pretty strong evidence out there that we're missing third spaces. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that term. So it's like you've got your home, your work, but traditionally societies have been more successful when people have like a third place. So like a bowling alley or a Elks Club, or those maybe are really
Like how
old
we
school.
were talking how I like to fish,
Yeah,
like that external environment.
Exactly, or a bar that you go to play, to play a game that you love with other people. But it's the place that you go that you know that you're going to get conversation. Pickleball might even be considered that these days, or whatever.
I'm a darts player, so
There
I
you
love
go.
to go to bars for darts.
There you go.
I did hear that. I was actually looking into that because I don't know if any of you guys have realized this while growing up. God darn it, it's so hard to make friends,
Oh,
especially
yeah,
when you get out of
100%.
school. And then like I saw like someone talking about this, and it was that exact instance. It's
Yeah.
because in school we foster friendships through school. That's our third place.
Right.
So it's like home, school, but school's also that fun place, like the playground, you know, the
Yeah.
lunchroom, whatever the case is. We still have that connectivity. And as soon as we leave schooling, then
We don't
it's
have
on
any of
us
it.
to kind of find that middle ground. But everyone's life moves at different paces.
Yeah.
So then people take it personally, or you know, just as a sign of disinterest, when realistically he can be working 7 days a week. I'm only working 5. His time off, he just would rather, you know, catch up on his chores or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to get that in between, because that third place is required to actually kind of get that genuine connectivity.
Well, I don't mean to be pessimistic for the two of you specifically, but I will say that I think that you're up against something that's very, very difficult right now, which is that it hasn't even really gotten hard for the two of you, because I would guess that I know neither of you currently have kids, right? I think that,
Kids.
and I would imagine that people in your friend groups don't have a ton of kids yet.
No kids.
It gets way hard. I mean, in some ways it gets easier because you can start being friends with your kids'
Yeah.
friends' parents or whatever. But that is doesn't always work out, because then you're kind of relying on the fact that you actually get along with these other adults who are,
Or the kids get along.
or the kids get along, all kinds of stuff. So for your generation, you are up against something that's a real, that's really, really important, because I don't know, I would love to hear your thoughts on this, but I would say from my own personal experience, I don't know what is more important than finding the person that you want to try to live your best life with.
Done deal. I already got it.
You got it. You did and Reem is amazing, and you did a great job. But you guys found each other from school.
Yeah, that third party.
All right. So what is it for your generation to be able to find somebody outside of that? And to your point, I completely understand why you want to avoid the dating apps. I actually don't know anybody who wants to be on dating apps at this point, but it does also seem like it's the only place that you can go to be able to.
It's for the antisocial people.
Well, the other thing too, and you can tell me whether this is true.
That's also true. The addiction.
If you are single right now, I don't know if you are, but if you're single, the thing about being single that is hard to remember when you're in a relationship is that when you're single, it literally feels like everyone else is coupled.
Yeah, it honestly does feel that way.
It's like amazing. You walk around and you're like, there must not be any other single people on the face of the planet. Everybody looks coupled everywhere you go. And then you feel like, oh man, what am I gonna do other than going on to, some sort of dating app to be able to find that stuff? So I get it's a kind of a chicken or an egg,
Mm-hmm.
but
I just have a positive spin on this.
Great.
There's plenty of people who like Polarises and tricycles, guys. You can always be a third wheel. I welcome it.
I get
I
what you
am
did
a
there.
third wheel.
I
I
get
am
what
a
you
third
did
wheel.
there. Yeah. Third wheel's not a bad place to be.
It's more stability, more fun. Oh, not really. I'd
That
rather
just
2
makes me
wheels
the
over
front
3,
wheel.
but
It
it's cool.
Obviously, if we're being real, if we're talking about like a true intimate relationship, I don't understand how 3 would work.
That's fair.
Oh,
You know what I
no.
mean? So
I'm
people,
I'm not for
What is it?
that. No.
yeah. I'm not saying that you
Polygamy?
are. I'm not implying that.
Polygamy.
Whatever that is,
Polygamy.
I would say whatever that is, to each their own, and it's none of my business. And I'm, however people want to live their lives, cool with me. But one person is hard enough. So but when you get into a friendship situation, even if 2 of those people are in a relationship and the third person, that can be so relieving in social environments to be able to just have that one other person who is redefining the way that everybody can have fun.
Yeah.
So I think, friendships can emerge in all different ways, and they're always beautiful as long as it's a cool connection and everybody's good to each other.
I agree, but I'm just kind of up in the fritz on it, because I kind of see, not that I've ever had the experience, but in the intimacy one, you connect with one greater than the other. Realistically, I think the third one in that sense would just be for pleasure, like the same way that we would play video games or something. It's that innate like reaction. You get something new, a new experience, and that's why a lot of people seek after stuff like that or like fantasize about it. I assume. But
It's obvious why.
it's just like,
obvious
oh
why it could
man,
be
I'm
there,
a
but
I just can't see it, honestly. I'm a that one person together
Yeah.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I also love the red string theory. So it's like,
Tell me more about that. I don't think I'm familiar.
Yeah, I'm
do
gonna.
you know what the red string theory is?
I don't think I do.
So it's like, I believe it's a Chinese theory where two people are connected by a red string. It's like your soul tie, your soulmate and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how many knots, how many tangles, at some point you're gonna find that person.
Really? And what do you love about that theory?
I'm a lover boy.
Yeah. So you just
I'm a diehard lover boy, even though I don't portray that often.
no. I think you know what I think. What I was trying to call out earlier is that you have a very you seem to have a very gentle soul.
Mm-hmm.
Like you seem like you would be good to anybody that you come in contact with because you're just a good human being that wants to do right by people. I don't know. Is there anything else that we should celebrate more than that? That's a wonderful thing. Like I'm sure whoever gets the other side of your string is going to be lucky to be able to have that attitude on the other side. Now, finding the other person on the other side of that string is complicated.
That's the difficult part because you got to weave through all the knots, the tangles, the miles of string.
Yeah, yeah, and from what I can tell, um, I've got very limited experience in this, so I don't want to pretend that I have more than I do. But because I've essentially been married for 20 years of my life, but it looks like the dating scene is kind of hard. It looks like everybody has got their defenses up big time. Like it's very difficult to be your authentic self quickly. It looks as if people are looking to try to figure out where red flags are.
Mm.
And that sometimes means that they're okay missing green flags to make sure that they don't miss a red one, which I don't
That's a lot of
blame them
things.
necessarily. It's tough.
If we're on the topic of technology, I feel like that's a great topic to be on because not only is there dating apps, but I feel like because of dating apps, it actually makes you miss the ones closest to home.
Mm.
Like, let's say, for instance, the classic story that, best friends since childhood hope for something more, but it keeps getting bypassed kind of thing. And that is exactly what dating apps do because it opens your range so much farther than what your actual connectivity would have ever been. And
Mm.
yes, in some cases, it can absolutely bring great happiness or pleasure, whatever you're seeking. But in most senses, it makes you miss what's directly in front of you, like your connectivity with your children, for instance.
Right.
It's just you're so focused on something that's distant rather than what's immediately close. In your sense, you're missing the fact that, you love your kids and your kids love you and whatever the case is. And that's just like an example of one of many. So I think the technology aspect has opened up more doors, but at the same time, because there's so many options, it's hard. You're stuck in a paralysis almost.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That's my 2 cents.
So for the two of you as young men, like or younger men, what is it that you're looking for from a relationship? Like what does intimacy do for the two of you that makes you feel like you want to invest in it?
I stopped chasing a long time ago.
Okay.
So I don't really have that. I'm honestly just kind of waiting for something to be shown in front of me.
Yeah. And how will you know whether it is?
I have faith that God will show me a sign.
Makes a lot of sense. And do you have to worry at all about the relationship between access and opportunity? So are you are you going into places where you feel like that person could exist so that you're creating the opportunity for the moment to happen?
Yes and no. Like we go out sometimes and it's like there's the opportunity at any point for anything. You know what I
Right.
mean? But it's not like I'm hunting for it, but if it protrudes itself then you know what I mean?
Yeah. I know exactly what you mean. The challenge in that too is just this feeling of like, okay, if you go out, have you practiced enough to know that you can seize the moment if the moment's there?
Oh no. If I'm fumbling and she laughs and she likes it, then
You're
you know you have it.
okay.
But if they're not even gonna give you the time, that's not your one.
Ah, what a healthy way to think about that. That's really an amazing way to focus on being like, okay, the feeling is going to reveal it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So the instinct, your intuition, if you're there and the feeling is exactly what it needs to be, even if your actions aren't going exactly the way that you want them to, that's going to be the right thing for the right person.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really healthy outlook on that. On the other side, you're gonna get married.
I am.
How does that feel for you? How does it feel to go from, because in a lot of ways, I would say there are two things that you can do as a man that change your life significantly. One is obviously having kids, and the other one is choosing to be in a completely committed relationship, which is the highest version of that is deciding to get married. And it's really an opportunity to be able to sort of let go of the boy and invest in the man.
That's a good saying.
I
You're
love
very
that
great with
analogy.
words.
Do you feel ready for that? Do you feel ready to let go of the boy and invest in the man? Because that is it's a huge undertaking in your life, and it really takes a commitment to being able to be like that. You got to want it, because otherwise you don't get there. You have to want it.
So where I have a couple of things on this. Where I am on the boy to man thing, um, I still act like, the high school deal with me. It's kind of hard to like mentally still like separate the fact that I've gotten older
Hmm.
compared to when we had met.
Hmm.
I will say that like a lot of my habits have matured in that sense.
Mhm.
Although I still like nitpicking and bothering her because her aggravation makes me very happy because it literally, if I can't bother you, who can?
Right. I believe that
So
my kids call that rage baiting, but I'm
yeah,
not.
I
That
absolutely
is rage baiting.
I absolutely love rage baiting her, but she gets a general sense out of it too because I'll be perfectly fine playing video games, and that's when she decides to bother me.
Mm,
And I don't know if you're ever in the zone or whatnot and you get bothered. It's like being in a race and getting a call.
mm,
You're like, why?
mhm.
But genuinely, that's like one of my favorite things. That's where I hold to my like childish tendencies. Um, and we do go back and forth a lot, nitpicking at each other just because we don't want the other one to get the last word. We like battling each other almost, but like at the end of the day, we laugh about it. Like we get a little heated, but at the end of the night, we go, I love you. I'm glad that you're with me. Thank you for sticking it out. You're such a great human being, and we go from there. Um, to me, mentally, I've been married to her way before I even proposed,
Yeah.
and you guys know, I had just proposed this year, but I've been together with her for in October this year would be 9 years.
Yeah, it's a long time.
It is a very long time. So we went through trials and tribulations, different personality shifts, and all that stuff. Um, Mentally, I was already like married in a sense to her because I put so much time and effort in, and I've never done that for anyone else. My longest relationship besides my fiance now is 3 months. Emotional connection was not my thing. So to go from 3 months to a year to 2 years to four, like, it's just
Right.
drastically different. When other people acknowledge it, though, it makes me anxious. Why? I don't know.
When you say when other people acknowledge what?
Like the marriage outcome, the length of our relationship, to me, it just feels like one, like a flowing river. Like it just goes on. Like you don't really think anything of it. Where does it start? Where does it end? When other people acknowledge it, like, wow, look at that beautiful river. Like I
Mhm.
wonder how many years it took to create this crater that this water's going through endlessly. Like it's that setback that's kind of like awkward to me because it's like, man, you're right. It has been a long time. Oh my God, I am getting married. Jeez. And then I get flustered on other people's behalf because that's just like the general consensus. So it's almost like their emotions on it
Mhm.
bleed into my realm. Because to me, everything is all cool and collected. I already figured this was going to happen at some point anyway. I figured we're going to have kids at some point. We're working toward a business together, as you already know. So, like, to me, this thing it's just happening. It's just going at a constant. But when you take a step back and look at it, it's like, honestly, it makes me stumble a little bit. Like, man, is this really happening? Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's exactly how you should feel. That's the reality of your situation, right? Is that you're about to step into something that you probably subconsciously understand how important it is, but only occasionally bring that up to the consciousness.
Yeah.
It's kind of like when we do that breath in the beginning. It's like you're subconsciously breathing all the time, but we do the breath in the beginning so that it's a conscious reminder that you have access to breath to be able to bring your nervous system, your emotional regulation to the, to the best place that it can be. But it's we were talking about this earlier before you guys came in, Oliver and I. We're constantly trying to figure out, is there anything that is universally true to all people? And so we have fun every if you guys ever want to join us, every Tuesday before we get into our series of Wednesday and Thursday night podcasts, we start doing our own podcast that we call Mic Check, and him and I just sit down at the mic and we talk for 3 hours straight. No agenda, no questions, no nothing. We just talk about whatever we want to for 3 hours, and we're just going to let people join us whenever they want to. But one of the things that comes out of those conversations between two of us all the time is trying to figure out, is there anything that we can guarantee that is the same truth for everyone? And one of the things that we were exploring today before you came in was the idea that if you love something more, does that guarantee you the equal response of loss? So
Talking from like person to person. Or in
is it
general?
true? Is it true for everybody that let's say from your point of view, the red
Red
string
theory.
the red string theory, right? So if let's say you didn't meet that red string theory person for over a long period of time, and you were dating other people who had qualities that sometimes you thought were great and sometimes you struggled with them a little bit. Maybe you had love for them, but you weren't in love with them. The difference between those two things. And then all of a sudden you meet that person, you meet the red string. And this is someone who is captivating you all the time. This is somebody who makes you feel alive all the time. If that person goes away, the level of hurt that you will feel from that person's departure from your life will be dramatically different than the way that you'll feel with somebody who you had love for but were not in love with.
Oh, it'll be dramatically worse.
Right?
Because you have all your emotions thrown into it and built into that relationship.
So the correlation that we were talking about is it true for all of us that the greater reward you seek, the greater risk you're also simultaneously taking at any given time. And it's really important to go into those situations with your eyes wide open, because if you're going to make it work with somebody you love, which I've been around the two of you, I believe that that's what you two have. You've got to be fucking locked in on making sure that you understand how important that is to the quality of your life being excellent for your entire life will have so much to do with your ability to be able to understand how to prioritize that commitment.
If I may.
Absolutely.
Remember what I was saying from the outside looking in? It's always comments like that where it's so in-depth and analytical that I go, do I put the right amount in? Because to each person, love is different. Love can be food. Love can be loyalty. Love can be consistency. Love can be just showing up.
Mm-hmm.
And it differs so much from person to person, depending on experience and livelihood, that it's just such a vague thing. And to me, I always feel like I'm doing enough, but not enough, because I know I could be doing more. Like, for instance, I play video games. So sometimes I sit there longer on video games than I should, or sometimes I forget an important date, and like it makes you question these things as it's actively going through. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So from the outside looking in, you always, it doesn't matter if I know I'm 100% on point, but it makes you second guess, like, do I do that good? Is that really the case? But that I don't know if that's just me or like everyone in general. When you so much attention has been brought to your actions or work that you go, wow, is that truly it?
Listen, guys, everybody's extremely unique. So I don't know that there's a one size fits all, but what I can tell you from my own personal life is that I have found shame to be an incredibly helpful tool to figure out how to become the best version of myself, or get closer to the best version of myself, or at least decide with myself that I want to reach my potential. I do not want to fall short of that. That seems like a massive missed opportunity with however much time you have. It's about figuring out what you got in the tank and what you can, what you can accomplish with that. But I don't know how you can do it without addressing shame. Because every time you have a thought that's like, I don't know, should I be paying more attention to her? Should I get off these video games? Should I do this? Should I do that? Like maybe each one of those thoughts is your intuition being like, wake the fuck up. Maybe it's not. I don't know. You know what I mean? You'd have to self-evaluate that in any way you can. We've done an exercise before that sometimes is really helpful. Is like if you take a list of everything that you need to get done in a day, and let's say there's 15 things that you need to do. What do you got to get done at work? What do you got to get done at home? I got to, feed the animals. I got to take the dog for a walk. I got to do this. I got to do this. I got to do this. And one of those, or maybe multiple of those things are things that you really want to do. I want to play video games. I want to, whatever else falls on that list. Can you take that list and rank it in order of the things that you like to do the most and the things that you like to do the least, right? So let's say like do the dishes is on your list of 15, but you just absolutely hate doing the dishes, right?
Yeah.
So what you do is make your list, rank it, the things that you like doing the most, so maybe video games at the top, dishwashing at the bottom. And then every day when you wake up, invert your list and do it in the opposite order. And what you'll find is that if you do that, it will leave you more time to play video games without guilt because you'll have already done the other 14 things that you knew gave you mental permission to be able to enjoy it. But if you don't do that, you end up feeling guilty when you do it because you've got 13 other things in your list that you are circumventing right now to allow that to happen. So it takes discipline. You have to be disciplined to want to make sure that you're giving yourself the relief to be able to enjoy that.
It's funny you say that because that's almost my weekend routine, and I'm pretty sure you can vouch for it.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, I want to play so bad, but I have this, that, and this to do. I want to start all this before I can mentally check into the game. Gosh.
Yeah.
I'm glad that you said and flip the list because I was going to say, because you have to come to the general consensus that you have to go through the sucky part of the stuff you don't like to go and then explore into the things that you do like.
Yes. I wake up almost every morning, guys, and I have different routines for every morning, but it always is essentially includes the same two things. I always sweat somehow. Sometimes that's a sauna. Most of the time, it's either I go to a hot yoga class or I go to play basketball. But I always sweat every single day. I never miss it. And then I always do a cold plunge.
Okay.
Cold plunge is the only thing that I can't do, like if I'm on vacation, something like that. So I could that sometimes a substitute with a cold shower.
I want to do a cold plunge, honestly.
I haven't done one.
I feel like
Cold
it would
showers,
be
though.
very good, especially because we work in very laborious jobs.
Yes.
So it will definitely help the body with our muscles.
It helps. So I believe that it does, and I have a torn ACL right now, so I use that to it. I think it's helping.
Mm-hmm.
I think you got a lot going on, and I applaud you because you show up every day and you got this great smile and great aesthetic, and I would have never guessed you weren't in pain or had any injuries. That's impressive.
Well, I just think, all the time, thank you. I appreciate that. I do complain sometimes, so I'm sure you're just catching me at a moment where I'm in like a professional version of myself, and so you're not getting as much as the woe is me as I have in me. But I have found in my own life that victimhood behavior has absolutely no benefit to my life getting better.
It only has negative.
Only negative. So I always think like, okay, well, what's the alternative to whatever attitude I have right now?
And it's to pretend it doesn't exist and keep going about your day the best you can.
Just what can I control today? What can I do right now?
Attitude.
What is in this moment that we can control? And the reason why I actually find the cold plunge to be my favorite tool of all tools, and I went through a very difficult divorce, and so I've tried all different kinds of things. I've done transcendental meditation. My brain was on fire for a while because it was a betrayal. And if you've ever been betrayed in any way, it is a
It's a
very
devastating loss.
it is a very difficult mental state to overcome, because you're not only trying to overcome the idea that that it's possible to be betrayed by somebody you love, but you're also trying to overcome the idea that why did I not see it? So you don't know how to trust your instincts anymore, and you've got to work completely backwards to not only be able to let go of something that has got a grip on your mind and looping thoughts, but you also have to figure out how to allow your nervous system to come back into alignment with your mind, so that you can start figuring out how you can actually trust yourself again, how you can know that when you meet that person, that you actually know that those are the feelings that you want to be able to connect yourself with. It's a lot of complication there.
I do get how you're feeling, because I'm still going through that from a past relationship last year. So I completely understand where you are.
Well, I'm
where you're
sorry.
at with
I'm
that.
sorry that you went through that, and it's I won't give you any bullshit lines like everything gets better with time, because I don't think that that's actually how it works. I think that
It definitely does not.
I think
It's
that
not.
you have to actively start to pursue ways to make yourself feel better.
The change.
And the faster you go through that, the faster you'll allow yourself to start to feel like you can heal. But I still, a decade later, still have times where I feel like I get caught up in a tsunami of that. And you just gotta ride the wave and be okay with it.
Might I intervene?
Yeah.
So I do love the topic conversation because it's always been fascinating to me, where the thought of betrayal, right? It's a typical thing that most people fear or go through and then have this overwhelming experience, I guess. Um, I'm from a different background on that, and I guess maybe betrayal comes from thinking the best of things, but I was always raised from the opposite end. So think about the worst possible outcome.
Can you describe this in a way that gives us context? Like, can you tell a story that
Okay.
without calling somebody out that you don't want to call out?
Let's see.
Like, give us an example of
I'll
how we
give-
would understand it.
I can't really give a story, but I can give it a simple, I guess, sum up. When you want to ask a question, you really want something, right? Let's say this great opportunity, but you're afraid of asking the question and taking the next step forward. I was always taught, what's the worst that'll happen? You get told no, go fuck off. This isn't for you, and just you get shit on essentially. So the best possible outcome from it is you get exactly what you want. Why let the base minimum being no stop you from seeking after this? You're afraid of getting told no, your ego getting hurt, you not getting the outcome that you wanted. How are you going to get any of that if you don't seek after it in the first place? So that's how my mental always developed. So betrayal or, heartbreak or anything never really affected me, because I always thought worst case scenario, best case scenario, this is the one for me.
Yeah.
This is my soulmate. And I've had plenty of relationships before my fiance that I've had that instance.
But you said even before your fiance that you had only had relationships that lasted 3 months. So not saying that betrayal can't hit you in intensity levels in different times, but it is directly proportionate to the investment. The more invested you are in the person that betrays you, the harder the betrayal is to be able to get over. Yeah, and I one of the things that I want to really avoid on this podcast, and especially I respect the two of you, so I want to avoid this in this conversation, is that there's really this like a very unhelpful when people start debating who's had it worse,
That's fair.
because
It
it
never
just
goes well, and it always ends up to someone hurting another person.
yeah, because I think that the place that the three of us can connect is like, man, I'm really sorry that the two of you have ever been hurt. That's not, dealing with trauma is rough. Now, what you're saying, I got to be honest, like I completely agree with what you're saying, and I love your mindset. If your mindset is like, we all got to make choices. The choices are out there. Are you going to let no slow you down from living your best life? I think you're 100% right. You've got to take the risk every time. Every time you got to go for it, because we got one life to live. And maybe you don't send it that one time.
And you miss your opportunity.
And you miss your opportunity. What a
Just like you said,
shame.
high risk, high reward.
Exactly. So I think that the the trick is to make sure that you train your mind and your nervous system to understand that you are willing to become 100% accountable for everything you want. That it's not anybody else's fault. There's nobody out there who's going to make your life easier and make your life harder. It is 100% up to you at all times to figure out, if I know what I want, then the next thing that I have to do is I have to negotiate what it's going to cost me. And sometimes that's time, sometimes it's resources, sometimes it's love and attention, or developing a new skill that I don't currently have to make sure that that it supports the person or the initiative on the other side. And then the last piece, and this I think is probably one of the most important pieces of it, is that you have to have a plan. You then have to start to architect a plan that is like, okay, I know what I'm willing to allow this to cost me. I know what I want. Now, how do I build a plan that allows both of those things to be represented in my plan until I can see a vision for how I can execute this thing? The reason why I like the cold plunge so much, and the reason why in my mind it's become my favorite tool, it does seem to help your body. I definitely have felt it help my body in a couple different ways. I think in particular, I've had an issue with my knee, and I felt the recovery has been quicker because of it, but it's hard to measure. The reason why I like it is because it's the hardest 3 minutes of my life every single time I do it.
It's because your body's fighting your mind to stay in.
Today, it wasn't working very well, so it didn't get all that cold. I think it was like in the 50s, and that was like pretty tolerable. As soon as it dips down into the 40s, it's uncomfortable. When it gets into the 30s, it is brutal. And it's brutal for 3 minutes straight. And so anytime you can put yourself through 3 minutes of something that is intolerable from the jump, then it just gives you a level of like, I can do anything after this. You know what I mean? This is by far going to be the worst thing that I have to do all day. So if somebody gives me shit later on, I'm like, is it going to be harder than sitting in cold water for 3 minutes? I don't think so. I don't think it's going to get worse than this. And I like starting my day there. I like starting with a thing that makes you grind as hard as you possibly can from the very beginning. Now, I like, then every once in a while you watch other people out there who are way more maniacs than I am, and I don't want to go to that point. These like people who are doing ultra marathons and they're pushing themselves to that point. Like, God bless them.
That's all crazy.
And I admire these people, and I want to learn from their mindset, but that's also just not who I am. So I've just tried to figure out, like, what is that level at which you want to get yourself to where you feel really good about yourself every time you lay your head down on the pillow at the end of the night. I think that's the game, guys.
That makes sense. Makes sense.
I think the game might be, how do you live your best life?
I think that's a great game, though. But I find that a lot of people end up opting out of the game.
Yeah.
Because it is too many decisions. They don't like taking accountability. They can't understand that their actions have consequences and like the fallout from certain decisions.
What percentage of people do you think do that? Like, if you had to say, out of 100% of the population, what percentage of people do you think are backing out of the game?
At least 70.
I would say
Because nobody wants to do. Half the people don't want to deal with the struggle.
That's scary, though, right, guys? Like, that's scary that 70% of the population is on autopilot.
You just go through your base life. You do the bare minimum, survive. Everyone's just trying to get through any struggles they're going through, and the least amount of thought they put into it is the least amount of pain that they get out of it.
You guys comfortable if we evaluate this for 1 second? Right?
Yeah, I'm cool.
Okay, so let's say you got somebody who's taking that perspective. They're like, man, it's just too hard every day. It's too much. Ignorance is bliss. I just want to wake up, have a simple life, and is it simple, though?
We know someone.
Does it start with a B?
Jay.
Okay, so let's take this person that the two of you know, right? And let's say that they are a great example of somebody who is sort of quiet quitting in their own life. Is their life free of drama?
No.
Is their life, does it appear to be easy?
No.
So what are they gaining by quiet quitting in their life?
Nothing.
So why are they doing it?
Do you know who I'm talking about yet?
I do, but in my sense, I'm disagreeing on that. Seem
What?
quite blissful, quite perfectly fine, because as long as you neglect every other issue and do the bare minimum, it equates to perfect.
Okay, so who's paying the consequence for them ignoring all those other issues?
Themself. Mainly, it's always yourself. You literally lose all other opportunities. You lose all what is the word I'm looking for? Potential that you've ever had. You
Yeah.
diminish your own well-being.
Well, here's one thing that I learned in training that I think I might have figured out otherwise, but it's very, very clear when you're training somebody to do something. And you can take this all the way back to the driver training that I was telling you guys about before, but it applies everywhere, which is that it appears that people do not create bad behaviors unless they are feeling insecure about something. You know what I mean? Because if you're feeling secure, if you're feeling really good, then your foot is on the gas pedal. You're always trying to look for the opportunity for things to get even better. You're like, okay, fine, I ran into a road bump. No problem, because problems require solutions, and I make a living off of solutions. So that is a really great place for me to be. Bring me your problems. I will present you with solutions. But if you have somebody who feels differently about that, every problem is only, getting bigger and more and more and more. It probably is also layering on lowering of their self-esteem, and then and then increasing their insecurities. And what oftentimes happens when somebody's insecurities are high is that they no longer are just feeding off of themselves anymore. Now they're looking for other people to drag down with them. Now they're looking for how to be cruel in some way to make sure that they take that other person down a notch, so that they make sure they don't have to stay there alone. It's like I don't know if you've ever seen anything that described empathy and how empathy works, that it's like, true empathy is about seeing somebody that's really struggling and being willing to get down into that struggle with them and stay there with them and not be afraid of it, and then be able to leave the struggle together. But there's a connection there that becomes really powerful because you saw each other in a moment that was really difficult. But the opposite is also true too sometimes, where somebody is feeling so poorly about themselves that the only thing that they can do is try to pull everybody that they can down into the trench with them and keep them down there in that trench. And it's psychological warfare while they're doing it to try to figure out how you push that away. So the question that I'm asking you guys to consider is, like, even when you run into somebody that looks like doing the bare minimum, maybe they're pulling that off in their own life. Have you examined how they're affecting other people's lives? Are they affecting your lives?
Too much.
Are they bad calories?
I guess there's both sides to everything. Because in my sense, it only affects me on the behalf of, I would like the person to live up to their true potential and seek these opportunities that they keep bypassing, while in his sense, that person is so down in the dumps that they drag you down almost. So it's just an interesting outlook to see, because no matter what you deal with, there's always both sides of a coin. So one side can be good but bad in a sense, and one side can be just super negative.
My thing with that is, it doesn't help that this person has people that are just letting it happen and basically almost encouraging it to just keep going.
So why do you think people are encouraging it? Like, what if you had to break that down? Again, we're not talking, like, we don't have to talk about the specific person, but you have a situation that you both can relate to that we can break down.
I mean, he's never going to watch this, so, I mean...
We do have 11 listeners right now, so,
No,
he could be
one of the 11, dude.
he could be one of our 11.
In other
Thank you.
words,
Thank you. That's what we're looking for out of this. Yeah. Okay, so let's speak freely to the point that we know that we're not going to use names anyways. And in the end, I'm here for you guys. I don't know who this person is. I don't care about that person. They're not in my caring capacity at the moment.
Yeah.
You two are the people that I care about. So talk to me about when you observe this person, because you've got an amazing opportunity to be able to observe somebody else, to be able to reflect on what you're seeing, and then start to figure out how do you change anything that you want in your own life to make sure that you are using the fuel of that example to make sure that it gets you to the best place. And that is huge because it means that you get to make change without trauma. Very rare that you can do that.
I have a great upbringing.
Hmm?
The opportunities.
Wow.
Anyway, it was a joke. On his behalf, correct me if I'm wrong, I do believe the woe is me that we were mentioning previously, that
Yeah.
complaining almost never helps. That's a big one that person does.
Mhm.
Yes. A lot.
Substance abuse to deal with self-medication and suppression.
Mhm.
Mhm.
That's a huge one. And when I say that I'm my own main character, he takes that to a literal, including you need to understand that it's the center of his world. Like, he's the center of your world. Like, you have to put it around
Right.
him.
So, and which is very, very common that people who are going further into the woe is me are also not realizing that that eventually becomes the same thing as narcissism.
Mm-hmm.
So,
He hit the nail on the head with it, honestly.
that person's an interesting person.
And I don't think the portion of the media that he allows himself to just sit in helps him get out of it.
Mhm.
Just grows the
Yeah.
Securities.
the plague.
Yeah.
As a metaphor for it, it just grows the plague, which is that
Yeah.
dark spot that he's in.
You guys, anything make you angry, like on a regular basis that you know, anything, can you think of anything that sort of fuels you up to feel angry?
Cars. Why the hell do mechanics set them up the way they do? My bad. Engineers. For us mechanics to have to deal with, it's like, why the hell put a starter under every possible fucking coolant
Ignorance.
hose?
Ignorance.
Okay.
That's what he's saying. Ignorance.
Yeah. Okay. So something that's poorly designed that makes your life more difficult on a regular
Mhm.
basis. Trying to think what would be another example. I mean, obviously, like watching the news is a great example of this, where you are actively going to something every day that's only making you more and more frustrated, but there is no lever for you to be able to change the control. I think about this all the time, right? People are very concerned with what's happening in different places, which we have to applaud because there is a necessity for us to have love for everybody in this world. I don't know anybody that wouldn't agree with that. Like, it's important that if we want to see everybody as equals, then we have to see everybody as somebody who has tremendous amount of value. But the reality of that too is that you can only control so much. And so does it actually help somebody on the other side of the world if you are constantly worried about them and you are making these dramatic cases about, what it is that needs to happen for that person that you do not know to be able to have their outcomes improved. But while you're spending the time doing that, you are not focusing on making sure that you are improving your outcomes. Because if you improved your outcomes, you might actually get to the point where you have enough influence and opportunity to be able to increase your sphere of how many people you could actually touch and improve their lives. But if you keep being the center of your own attention, you can complain about whatever you want, but it's not actually going to help anybody outside of that.
I have a great reference to this. Man in the Mirror.
Oh, the Michael Jackson song?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just heard that not too long ago.
It literally tells you that, the
He's
best
making a
place-
real like he
Since the movie release,
yeah,
very big.
have you guys seen the movie?
I have not.
I've not either, but I'm maybe because I'm a little bit detached because I don't watch the news very often. I like all of that stuff. Like, I didn't know that this movie was so big until a bunch of people kept telling me that, like, oh, my wife and my kids have like seen it like 4 times. They keep going back to the movie theater. Like, everybody's in love with this movie. I was shocked. I didn't know that the last time I had heard anything about Michael Jackson, he was sort of in the middle of being accused of some predatory relationships with young kids. Like, I don't know how that all changed, but
Well, I guess the longer years went on, there was a bunch of conspiracy theories and stuff that popped out, and some people had found some connections that, essentially he was just eliminated. As for the predatory stuff, I'm pretty sure that was cleared. Correct me if I'm wrong
As
on
far
that.
as I heard, it was all cleared.
I want to be honest, guys. Like, I hope that it is. Because, first of all, the man's music is transcendent.
Mm.
Anytime you turn that music on, you're like, this is clearly a genius. My personal belief is that you got to be very careful with pedophiles, and that there isn't anything worse than you could do in this world than take advantage of a child. So but if he is innocent and he went through all of that, boy, that is a tough road for that guy.
Pretty sure the accusations arose just because they wanted the ownership of his songs and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm starting to come to the conclusion that, and maybe you guys can tell me whether this feels true to you or not, but it's really difficult to turn on anything that has to do with a digital experience and not feel like it has an angle to the digital experience that you're watching that isn't trying to convince you of something that
like
you don't
propaganda.
have the context to completely appropriately understand whether it's real or not.
Mhm.
That is called propaganda. And that is what has been happening throughout all human history, is that those who have the power tend to use things like newspapers, television, anything that the masses are consuming on a high level. They're using that to be able to push a narrative. And right now, it appears that there is so much consensus around narratives that they can push and pull levers to make people go wildly up and down in different belief systems really, really quickly. I don't know. I think we should all examine that, because that seems like I personally don't want to be a part of their propaganda. I want to be a free thinker. I want to be able to think for myself.
And that's what they don't want.
It's
They want you to just be eating all that those bad calories, as you said.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this a number of times, but everybody that I run into, guys, everybody seem to be extremely kind people. Like, I very, very rarely run into somebody who doesn't seem to have goodness in their heart and want to do really great things. But I have been doing business for long enough, and I have done business at a level where I have met some people who are not those people. You know what I mean? That you could tell that they had nothing other than power and greed that they were going after, and other people's well-being was not at all a part of the way that they thought about how to make decisions. It appears that that's probably about 2% of the overall population. And we know that there are a group of people who don't have feelings, sociopaths, psychopaths, and it's entirely possible that there's a lot of them running the world right now, and that we should really think about, what that means for everybody when we decide what calories we're allowing our mind to consume. Yes, sir.
I think it's your turn for a question.
Yeah, you want to do the
I
last
think we
question?
topped up the
Okay.
second one, and I know, Oliver, how much time have we been?
We are currently at 2 hours 18.
So
Yeah.
we're about in the second, almost third hour. I had a
All
feeling.
right, guys, this is the final question, and an important one, which is, what does living your best life look like to you?
I guess, like, lightly touching up would be trying to go for the opportunities that all arise that were something that I was kind of like putting out there that I wanted. All those shots that we mentioned that we can take, and just hopefully strive for those things, whether that be putting down the video game, to go do one errand, fix books, look up opportunities, negotiate with another person, or discuss business partnerships. I just have to put down my devices that give me this immediate gratitude and happiness
Mm-hmm.
for something that's a little bit more down the road, long-winded, something you have to strive for almost. So to me, if I can at least hit those marks, I would say that I would be pretty happy because at least I know I'm taking the strides that I need to.
Yeah. When you do a podcast with somebody, especially when it's long form like this, like 3 hours, you feel like you get to know them pretty well. And now I've done 2 of them with you. You know what I mean? So we get to know each other pretty well. And I think, hopefully I have given you my full attention in here so you feel like you know me. But I do feel like I've gotten to know you. And I would say that, in that I find you to be, first and foremost, you have a lot of charisma. And I can see that you have a lot of kindness that you want to bring to yourself. But I also saw what it was for you to bring that with Reem when you guys were in here together and did that podcast. What do you believe your potential is? Like when you think about the best version of you, have you ever had a daydream where you thought like where you were able to imagine yourself at the very pinnacle of what you think you're capable of? What did that look like? What was your dream?
Good question. First and foremost, I'm not nice. Everyone knows I'm an asshole. Okay, I gotta just put that out there. I can't let everyone know that I'm a nice
I
person.
said that you were kind. You
close
might be an
enough.
asshole. I don't
Nice
know.
or different.
Yeah. Nice. And I will also say that as somebody who tried to be a nice guy from almost my entire life, it's a mistake. I would like to wake up every day and be the kindest human being that I can be to everybody that I come in contact with. But being a nice guy is a recipe for tricking yourself into making decisions that are not in your best interest.
You lose a little part of yourself every time.
Yeah,
People
I
pleasing.
just think the word "nice" is the issue, right? Kindness, I would say, is much more broad about what it is that you're trying to do, but you're not looking to allow yourself to become. You're not playing a character. You're just trying to exude character. But I think you have character, and I think that you are. My sense of it is that you are kind, and that's fun if you want to be an asshole sometimes. Like sometimes that's cool to have people that you can shoot the shit with and talk shit with, and being that way can be charming. But then you might also realize sometimes that you're doing it too much and you need to.
I've
Dial it
learned.
back.
Yeah.
I've learned.
Right. But the whole point is to be a lifelong learner. The whole point is to figure out what your potential is. So when you imagine you at the greatest version of you, what does that look like?
It's almost embarrassing to say, but the only ever time that I ever daydream per se is the fact that I've hit a point where I've had kids and I can tell my story and laugh about it and give guidance. Hopefully that is within a realm of prosperity as well. But I would just say that's literally the only daydream I've ever had. It's literally, oddly enough, as much as I can't imagine myself as a dad, it's that I imagine myself as a father. It's just a weird conundrum there almost. But
Can I tell you a secret about being a dad? That is the only thing that I've ever talked to every other parent that agrees with me. I've never had a parent that disagreed with what I'm about to say to you, which is that if you guys decide to have kids and you want to be a great dad, all you have to do is figure out how you become the best version of yourself and then just tell your kids how you did it. That's it.
I've been told that.
That's it. And everything else that everybody tells you, some of it might be useful, but it's very difficult for somebody to give you advice unless they know your kid. Because you're about to think about when you decide to have kids, like think about how magical it really is. Not only will you have a kid, but that kid will be 1 in a trillion. You know what I mean? When you look at the number of sperm and the egg and those coming together, mathematically, the chances of that happening is pretty slim to begin with.
Almost impossible.
Right. And then the fact that whichever swimmer made it in there and however that all takes place, now you're talking about the uniqueness of the one. Out of all of them, you got that one kid who is going to be uniquely its own soul that will be the only version of that soul that will ever exist. Like, how incredible is that? And you get to nourish that. You get to take care of it. You get to try to figure out how you make it better than you?
I'm hoping to some standard it holds my asshole tendencies, because that also comes with being able to hold your ground. A lot of people aren't able to say no or put their boundaries up. And honestly, as much as I call myself an asshole, I like that I am, because I can put these boundaries up a lot easier, because a lot of people have that guilt almost. And with the asshole tendencies I've developed over my years with who I've been with, it's just I can be truer to me almost, and I hope that that carries over almost. Like that, in my opinion, is like my favorite trait of myself, is the fact that am not afraid to hold my tongue, so I can speak as outright and honest as I want, because I have no fear of what other people are. Now, don't get me wrong, I do sometimes go, maybe I went a little too far, or maybe I did this, but at the end of the day, if you know me for how you know me, and I've been 100% honest across the board, how are you going to be upset over my opinion over something?
Just depends how much you cross the line.
I've pushed his buttons quite a lot, but at the end of the day, I go, you know what? My bad. Maybe I was. And he was like, nah, that's understandable. I get how you are. I don't completely
Very
disagree.
justified.
Yeah, that's it, guys. You know what I mean? It's consent. It's like, have whatever friendship you want. Talk to each other in any way that you want, as long as both of you are cool with it. But at the second it crosses a line and it starts to tap into something that feels raw, or like it's, you know, it's hitting on something deeper, then you got to be honest and address it and figure it out. Such a powerful tool too, to be able to look back at your own childhood and figure out all the things that your parents gave you, the culture that you were raised in, the communication style that was given to you, and be like, ooh, I really love this. I love this about who I am today, and I want to make sure that I'm passing this on to my kids. And then you're like, I struggle with this shit all the time. God damn it, I wish that they would have cooled down on this a little bit. And then you're like, oh, I get to make the choice as to whether that enters my family or not.
Yeah.
Like, amazing. Like, because maybe you were dealing with some stuff that was less than what you wanted to. Well, guess what? If you recognize it, you address it, and you solve it, and you do something differently, no generation of people who have your last name will ever have to do that again. Ever. Ever. For all of time, you will change your bloodline forever.
Call it Stockholm or something, but I feel like if you change the formula, you won't get the greatness. So it's kind of iffy on that one. It's like, okay, what do I keep and what don't I do? So with Stockholm, it's like, maybe I deserve this and maybe this is what it is. But I only compare it to that because it's like, I did have this crappy portion, but would I be me without it?
You wouldn't be you.
How would I develop these great tendencies? How would I navigate this? Now, obviously, there's always better environments to nurture certain things, but it's just always a weird one to me, because it's like, all right, do I change it drastically? Because as the generations go on, people always complain, man, your generation is too whiny, or your generation is too lazy, your generation does this, your generation does that. But whose fault is that?
Yeah.
It always gets passed from our predecessor. It's because they passed on something that they figured would be helpful, and it nurtured into these whiny, lazy generations that keep going. So that is one of my biggest concern as going into a parent, is like, what do I leave out? What do I put in? Because I want to foster greatness, but I don't want to, nurture laziness.
Just the fact that you know how to say that tells me that you're going to do a great job. I'm going to share a story with you guys. I've told this before on the podcast, so I'm going to try not to tell it all the time for our 11 listeners, for your friend who's totally checking us out and going to
12 now.
Going to be pissed that we were talking about him in this episode.
Come on, dude.
My fault.
The cows and buffaloes have this really unique thing in common, which is that both of them have an ability to be able to measure barometric pressure. So before we domesticated buffaloes and cows, if they were like in open plains and they could tell that there was a weather system moving in, they not only have such an acute sense of barometric pressure that they can tell when a storm is coming, but they can tell the exact direction in which the storm is coming from. So as soon as a cow would pick up this sense of an impending storm, it would immediately, as a herd, start to run in the opposite direction that the storm was coming from. And they would just run and run and run until they exhausted all of their energy. And then by the time usually that energy had been exhausted, the storm would have caught them, and then they'd have to lay there on the ground with no energy as the storm just brutalizes them as they go through. Now, buffaloes have exactly the same ability to measure barometric pressure, exactly the same ability to know where the storm is coming from, but they have 100% opposite reaction to it. So they all turn and run directly into the storm, and they use their stored energy to go through that storm. And by the time they get to the other end of the storm, they still have enough energy left to be able to eat whatever that storm allowed to grow on the other side of it. So what I try to do with my kids is I try to tell them to be a buffalo. You know what I mean? I try to make sure that they know that they're always loved, that, I try to create a soft environment for them, that they always know that they can come home, they can always talk to me, they can always do, that I am there for them 100%. But that when it comes to the way that they need to get ready for the world, they need to be a fucking buffalo, because that world out there is not going to be friendly. I'm sure you two have experienced it, right? Like, you cannot step out into that world and be soft, because if you do, predators will find you, and they will figure out their way to be able to take advantage of that. So we've got to figure out, as men, we've got to figure out how do we allow each other to be able to have the ability to be okay having a soft side, but also realizing that that's not actually how the world works, and you can't be ignorant, and you got to be a buffalo. You got to be able to run into storms, and you've got to look for storms to run into, because a storm will always find you.
Always.
I mean, have you guys in your life, have you ever not had a storm that found you?
Plenty of issues growing up. So, yeah.
So the other side of that is that even in this conversation, if we were able to, for the two of you, be able to find something that was like the goal, something that you desperately want to do, it doesn't even have to be work. It could just be like, I want to learn how to race a car, Then, seriously though, Zach, right? Put that at the very top of your want, and don't let, the more people tell you that that's not a good idea, make your instincts override that every single time, to the point that you don't give a shit what anybody else says. It's like, if you want it, it's yours to go get, and you're going to go get it. Then all you have to do after that is be like, okay, what's it going to cost me? Where do I have to put in more work to be able to get more resources, to be able to get the equipment that I need to be able to do this? And then where's my plan? Where do I have the time? Where am I currently spending time that's wasted time, that doesn't earn me any more equity in something that I want to do? How do I invest my wasted time into money-making time, so then I have both the resources and time to be able to go do the thing that I actually care about? It's math. You know what I mean? We got a certain amount of energy and a certain amount of time to be able to use it. But if you don't give it extreme focus, you end up running away from storms.
You end up the cows instead of the buffaloes.
Yeah. Nobody wants to be a cow.
They do taste delicious.
Well, everybody wants to eat a cow, All right. For you, what's your best life look like? I haven't gotten to know you as well, but I got to be honest. Like, I think that my read on you tonight has been pretty accurate. It's a really positive read. You seem like you've got a lot to offer. What does your potential look like?
I'm at the point in my life I don't even know. I know that's very vague, but
No, but it might be an emergency for you to think about it. You know what I mean? Like, to really, and maybe it doesn't need to be all the way into, exactly how you want to spend your life. Maybe it's just that you need to know what you want to do next.
Well, I know what I want to do next. I don't know if it's what I want to do past that point. You know what I mean? Like, I've talked to him. I have an interest in cars, and then I also have an interest in welding.
Well, I can hook you up with a lot of opportunities there. Can you weld a cage?
I have no knowledge.
Oh, you should definitely.
Like, I know how to TIG weld, like, pipes.
Okay.
My grandfather's taught me how to do that because he's blanking. HVAC.
Okay.
He does
Yeah.
HVAC. So he taught me how to do that, but that's like the base bone.
Yeah, you should. We'll connect afterwards, and I'll try to, if you want to, I'll try to see if I can send you in any directions. But what an amazing craft!
I want to do underwater.
Ooh, I know a dude that did that too.
Even more exotic.
I've never known anybody who did underwater welding that wasn't a part of the military.
Hmm.
So the guy that I knew, I think he must have been in the Navy or something, and he was doing it there. But from what I understand, if you can get to the level where you're doing underwater welding,
It's a
the world
lot
is
of
sort of
money
your
in
oyster,
there.
yeah, because there's so few people who can do it. I mean, there is like 1,000 people on Earth that can do underwater welding, something like that. It's pretty.
It's brutal.
Yeah, I don't know how hard it is. It looks like it's pretty hard. but-
I would assume it's hard.
Yeah.
I would assume.
So that sounds like an amazing opportunity. And actually, the naval shipyard in Portsmouth, I think that they have a lot of welders that work out of there. That's probably an excellent place where you could even go and figure out whether they're looking for people to be able to take on the craft.
Hmm.
Fix your car.
Hush.
Step by step.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Relax.
I've given you the steps.
I would say, guys, the point of this question, though, what does living your best life look like to you? It's that you're not afraid to ask yourself that question. Right? And even tonight, you don't even need to know the answer to the question. It's just, can you leave being able to understand that you're valuable enough to make sure that you don't ever shortcut yourself from thinking that you shouldn't be asking this question all the time? I find it liberating to be in my 40s, because I don't think that I felt this way before. But like when I turned 40, it was like an obvious hourglass that got turned over. And I was like, oh shit, the sand's going in the wrong direction now. Like now I got to figure out what to do on that side. But I wish I had more of that perspective when I was a younger man, because I think that fire, that if you could carry that fire from a younger age, you can see how everything in life is a ripple effect. The good work that you do right now is a ripple effect to what it will feel like in a year or 2 years and 3 years. But unfortunately, the opposite is also true. If you're spending your time doing things that you don't think are creating a positive ripple effect, then unfortunately, that's also creating a compounding issue that you're going to have to overcome. And it's only going to make the issue that you have to overcome even bigger on the other side of that, which is where accountability comes in. It's like, do you like solving short-term problems for long-term gains, or do you like avoiding short-term problems to create long-term bigger issues?
Unfortunately, I'm teetering on the edge one, but I'm trying to mature as I go on. And typically, I'm pretty sure most people can relate, where it's the financial aspect that comes into mind immediately. It's like, all right, maybe if I did this better, I can, save myself hundreds of dollars on debt, or,
Yeah.
whatever the case is. But man, yeah, I know. That's the first thing that came to mind. I was like, that's the point I'm dealing with.
This is not to say that this is correct. It's just the methodology that we use, and it's the methodology that I used when I was trying to get myself out of not even work situations, but just my own life that was not going the direction that I wanted it to. And what we figured out was that one recipe to try to get to where you want to be is accountability, trust, and presence. And within each one of those, like if you're focused on accountability, the three things that you're really focused on is self-awareness, self-discipline, and resilience. Now today, this episode that we're doing right now, this is a theme that is off of self-discipline. So the discipline of technology. Every episode that goes along with this entire season is connected to one of those connected to our core values. But the reason why, if you want to get accountable in your life, why there is reasonable evidence that this is a decent way to do it, is that if you focus on your self-awareness first, that will open you up. That will open up your consciousness to being able to see the areas that you're not feeling great about, which is every time you get a feeling of shame, every time you get a feeling of like a bad feeling, every time you get a bad feeling, You slow down and you're like, why? Why is this situation correlating so predictably to a bad feeling? And then once you have that awareness is open, once you know that you can consistently be like, if I do this, I feel this way. If I do this, I feel this way. Then the next thing that you do is you apply discipline to it. And you're like, okay, I know that I either need to stop doing this or I need to replace this with something positive. So maybe like if the problem was that you felt like you were too much in the digital world, then you could be like, all right, well, what's my analog solution that I can put in here? So if I don't want to play video games as much as I am doing right now, what can I start doing to figure out how to weld a roll cage into a car that I can go take out to go racing, or, do anything with the time that you are spending here, and then directly correlate that with like the bad feeling that I was having. Is that still there? Or when I started welding, did that bad feeling go away? And now I replaced it with a feeling that makes me feel esteemed or accomplished or better about myself. And you're like, oh shit. Okay. Now, if I keep doing that over and over and over again, if I keep finding the things that are making me feel bad about myself and I replace it with something that makes me feel better about myself, that is probably going to be a pretty rational response to feeling better in general. And then the last thing that we believe in is that you have to build an identity around resilience. You have this, I think. You've described this before. And then the way that you described your mindset, I think, is that you have to describe yourself. You have to believe in yourself as somebody who can do tough things. And if you've already done tough things, if you already know what it is to do tough things, then like that's the one benefit of growing up hard, is that you already know exactly how to do hard things. You don't need to relearn that shit. Somebody already taught it to you. You don't want to live there forever, but at least you know.
My biggest issue is self-discipline. The whole topic of this conversation, it's the consistency aspect. I don't know if it's like a drive thing or like a rewarding thing. It just feels like torture. It's like when you know every day you have to cook, you have to clean, you have to do these things, and then like that's the little bit of time you give up every day between getting out of work and going to sleep for the next day for work. It's just exhausting.
Totally agree.
So the discipline aspect is definitely where I'm lacking and what I'm trying to develop. Because as you said, I feel like I got the resilience down. I feel like I got the self like awareness down. It's that in between step that's real hard to get down packed, and I feel like that's a big deterrent for a lot of people. It's the routine of things.
Yeah, and it's also like it's a deep self-evaluation of every part of what you just described. You're like, okay, I go to work, I come home, I got to do all of these things, and then I'm like exhausted by the time I get through all of those. So then you got to go back and you be like, okay, my point is to live my best life. That's the point of all of this. Everybody else, I hope you all live your best lives too. Like, let's all encourage each other to live our best lives. But me, you should be waking up every day and be like, am I living my best life? Does the person that I go and work for, do they want me to be living my best life? Is the job that I have right now, is that accumulating to my best life? If it's not, what am I doing every day to make sure that I am developing the skills, developing the attitude, and developing the opportunity to be able to go figure out what is a place that would make me feel like I'm on a trajectory that will get me closer to my best life, my potential, my opportunities? You can't sit still, guys. You know what I mean? If you're in a place that you're not happy with, you got to fight that shit, and you got to do it immediately. You got to figure out, like, maybe I got to do this for 1 more year. Maybe I got to do this for 6 more months. Maybe I got to do this for 2 more years. But at the end of that 2 years, at the end of that 1 year, at the end of that 6 months, I am out of here as soon as the next opportunity comes up that I know is actually a fit for what my potential is. Everything has to be evaluated, because if you want freedom of your time, you can't get it without freedom of your finances. Two things don't exist,
I agree. I would have to say that's a very good analysis of that.
Tough, though. Tough, because it doesn't leave any room for you to be able to feel sorry for yourself.
No sadness.
That's part about it, though. Because then you kill that factor out.
But at the same time, you have trouble acknowledging what's currently going on around you and appreciating it because you're always on the drive.
Yep.
Which On the last episode I was on, we were mentioning that that's one of the hardest things on constantly going for some of your things. It's just sitting back and acknowledging and appreciating the things because you always strive for more.
Yeah, for me, I would even say like when I started to be able to take more accountability, the next phase was trying to figure out how does that translate to being able to have better relationships with other people. And I don't even mean in an intimate sense, like that obviously that's the number one place that you want to be good in your relationships is anybody who you're very close friends with, intimate relationship. Family if possible, although people's family dynamics is very tricky and sometimes those can be really difficult calories and you got to be very careful with how much, you know what I mean? Because that can highly influence the way that you feel about yourself if you don't understand that your family's interpretation of you is not you. Those are, there's a lot that goes into that. But I would say that once you get into the relationship side, it's like take everything that you learned about self awareness. So all the work that you did to kind of figure out what your whys were. Why am I making this decision? Why do I do something that doesn't make me feel great about myself? Take all of that and then apply that to everyone you come in contact with and assume that they're doing exactly the same thing. That be empathetic to the idea that this is a beautiful person who just has some shitty patterns that they got to work through. And the more you can see the person behind the patterns, the more likely it is that you start to create a connection that feels good between the two of you. The next thing is be as honest as you possibly can handle all the time.
Got to step ahead on this then.
Good for you guys. Seriously, it's one of the hardest things you can possibly do, but do not deceive yourself into thinking that that just means that you tell the truth to somebody else. It means you tell the truth to yourself all the time.
I'm my biggest critic.
Consistency. Be super, super consistent with everything that you do. And that will be a strong enough recipe for you to become trustworthy, which I think isn't even like the grand importance of becoming trustworthy is not just so that people will trust you. It's also gives you the exact tools you need to know who to trust. Because you'll know what you had to do to be able to get there. And it will become extremely obvious to you when somebody is not doing those things. And then I would say the last phase of it is all about your ability to be able to be in the moment. So can you be emotionally regulated? Can you apply your focus to something that you know is actually going to help you and improve your life? And then the last one, and this is the one that I think is, should be all of our primary focus is, can you take all of the things that have happened to you throughout your entire life, all the things that didn't go the way that you wanted them to, and get to the point where you are so sure that you are grateful to be you, that you're grateful to be alive, that all of that shit that you went through has now been converted to gratitude. And you just turn that gratitude into an effort to make sure that your time doesn't get wasted. That whatever time you got left, you're gonna have gratitude for that time because that time is just opportunity, is nothing else. Just your opportunity to be able to go out there and make the most of it. And if you've ever lost somebody, it's a different kind of experience that you go through, but it does recalibrate yourself to like nothing's guaranteed here. You know what I mean? You can be in great shape 1 second and then time is gone in the next second. So we all have to love on each other and make sure that that everybody has the opportunity to be able to maximize their time in any way that they can. But also don't give your time to somebody who's not willing to put in the effort.
I would say you have a very beautiful concept of us, like as people, because that is so abnormal compared to what I grew up with. It's such a beautiful way because I'm like, I have some self reflecting to do and it gives me some food for thought and everything. But it is so abnormal compared to what I'm constantly used to.
Yeah.
Or I guess was because my environment's ever changing. But it's just like so different.
Yeah.
And I think that's what always makes conversations with people and getting to know people so much more interesting is because we all have these different vantage points and different experiences that we can kind of like feel off each other. And that's I don't know, that's what makes these talks always so interesting.
Well, I appreciate what you're saying. And I would just say, what I just said to you was my realization of my potential. It was like whatever struggles I was going to go through combined with whatever skills I actually have, and then combined with the time that I had spent in my craft and my career, was just trying to figure out how to put all those together so that I could be the best contributor that I possibly can to the most people possible. And over time, I realized that what my mission actually is to try to help people escape the prison of their own self-doubt through the pursuit of mastering themselves. And to do that, it required me to be able to remove my ego from the situation and just figure out what's at the base of all of this. Like, what is at the base of how I try to become the best version of myself? And then is that applicable to all people? Or am I just full of shit and I've been entitled my entire life and my life has just been easier than everybody else's? And so this stuff just came easier. And what I figured out was that, yeah, I definitely have been entitled. There's no doubt about it. You know what I mean? But that entitlement doesn't mean that you don't still need to figure out what your potential is and how you contribute to it. And I still believe that all people are equal. And I actually think that that's the same as the truth. That once people are able to come together and realize that we are all equal, then the perspectives that everybody brings, from things that have been tough for you, things that have been easy, things, people that have grown up in situations that that other people can relate to, and some people that grow up in situations that are so unbelievably different or difficult that no one could relate to it other than maybe just the people who are in that confined space. Everybody has a perspective that's unique, and somewhere in all of that perspective exists the truth. And I'm fascinated with figuring out what that is, because it feels like the more we try to figure out what that truth is, the more we're going to unlock it for people who maybe are in a situation where they can't get themselves out of a tough spot. But if we're able to give them something that allows them to have access to, to better ideas, to better thought processes, to more reflection, to more opportunity, maybe you can grow up in an environment who's not offering you that, but you can still get that somewhere else to be able to get you through. Ironically, we've been talking the whole night about games, right? And you guys know everything about games, and I know nothing about games. And the whole point of what we're doing with all of this project is that we built a game, right? And it's a video game. And the whole point of the video game is that you're an explorer, and you go through, you have to explore through the Curiosity solar system. And each planet that you go to, you have to collect 3 new skills. And each of those skills represent the characteristics and qualities of that planet that have allowed them to be able to live with each other in peace. And the goal is that at each planet, you're collecting these skills. And by the time you get through all 27 planets, you've collected 81 of these skills. And then at the end of it, you get to reemerge and come back to planet Earth. And you get to decide how you want to use those 81 skills to try to make our planet better. That's the whole goal of what we're doing here. It's 100% of everything that we built, this studio, everything that you see on the walls, all of it was just so that we could create a call for curiosity, create a broadcast out to as many people as want to listen, that we believe that curiosity could help, and then create a game that we think could actually give people access to be able to do it, and to make sure that the game is accessible to as many people as humanly possible, to be able to make that happen. So a lot of what you guys have said about games tonight has been fascinating to me, because I've been trying to build a game for 3 years as somebody who's never played a game. Not a video game.
No, Mario.
You're right. Thank you. I don't know if
A
Mario...
little bit of Red Dead.
It's actually the game that influenced the most, ironically, is not a video game, but Survivor,
I feel like I've heard of that.
the television show.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool.
Because that show, puts people in...
A clear challenge. You have to sort through it, figure out where you are.
Yeah, I fell in love with that show when it first came on. It was like, I don't know, 17 years old, maybe even younger than that when it first came on. And the thing that show undeniably teaches you if you watch it for long enough is that it's really impossible to grow without discomfort. And so the biggest mistake that we can make is to deny ourselves discomfort. Yep.
But with living, if you always live in like cushiness, you never develop the skills you need because everything's always the same.
Yeah, there's
Right.
no challenge.
Right. Which also you guys might see, and I'd be happy to answer any questions because I think that, I could certainly play this role. But if you have any friends who did live really cushioned lives, soft, grew up soft, had soft parents, told them that everything was okay all the time, mowed down any problems in front of them. Do those people look like they're well equipped to be able to
not at
handle
all.
what's in front of them?
Not at
Do you
all.
run into those people and think like, I'm super jealous that I don't have your attitude towards the world right now?
Never.
That's the thing, guys. You know what I mean? Like we all get handed what we get handed. The reality is we got to figure out how to all come out the other end with an attitude where we want to be buffaloes. Because no matter what, get raised hard, you get raised soft, you are going to find out that the world is going to be a tricky place and it's going to be a hard thing to navigate. You just got to figure out how to do it.
Agreed.
Feel bad for the cows. Real bad.
Delicious.
They are very good.
I don't know if that analogy plays out well in the in the long run, but the
I think that's
Good
gonna be
enough
my,
for now.
it's gonna be
Yeah.
my favorite saying to say after this.
gentlemen, do you have any other thoughts on discipline around technology? Anything that's emerging for you after we've had sort of this long form conversation, which I got to be honest was really fun. That we went in directions that I don't think you could have possibly imagined. The topic being discipline in technology, and we got into all kinds of stuff beyond that. So
I love that we veered off a lot, but we always ended up wrapping it back into the question that was originally asked
Yeah.
every single time.
good.
He's a very skilled spokesman. All right. He always can correlate everything. He's a
Reem
very
did
good
not
listener.
lie on this matter.
Yeah. I honestly, without our host here, I don't think it'd be as possible. And obviously, our voice of God adding some great context.
Thank you, God.
You always got to have Oz out there, the great and powerful. So, guys, genuinely, I'm going to answer this from my side, and it might be the same answer that I have forever in this podcast, which is I think living my best life looks like peace. For me,
Everyone wants
I-
peace.
I want to feel peace, and I want to be around people who want to feel peace, and I want to make peace with as many people as I possibly can, and then I want to go take that group of people who want to have peace, and I want to figure out whether we can spread that as far and wide as we possibly can, because I don't see any benefit in the alternative. None.
That's fair.
So if you guys like what we're doing here, you like the feeling that
love
this is,
this. I
this is
enjoyed this.
all this is peace, guys. We're just trying to come into a room and everybody gets to sit down and we all respect each other's perspectives and we all have a conversation and we all want to end at the same place. Peace. Just want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to feel better about themselves, and then we take everybody's better self and we try to spread that out as far as we possibly can.
As I've said before, this has been a blast.
Anybody vote that we wrap it and we go eat some shawarmas?
I think you guys
I vote
deserve
that.
some shawarma.
Okay. Episode, what are we? Season 1, episode 3. This is a wrap. Thank you, gentlemen. I really appreciate it. Let's go eat some delicious food because I'm starving.
You forgot the best part.
What?
We're supposed to inhale and exhale.
Oh, we usually do that in the beginning, but let's do this at the end as well.
I did it on mine too.
Okay, let's do this at the end. I'm going to give you a countdown. We'll do one deep breath, and then we're going to go eat all of the food that's out in that community area. So 1, 2, 3. Now we eat.
Let's
Let's go.